this time. There are 3 units out there, but just only one, or I just say one unit putting water on the fire at this time.
Okay, Richard, we'll continue your picture there, and while we do, let's look ahead just a little bit, some of the events that will be coming up today. We are told that Mayor Tom Bradley will be speaking once again, bringing the news media and the public, because we will go live to him when he does so, an update on the state of emergency that exists in the city of Los Angeles at 9:30 this morning. It is now 8:59, so in about a half an hour we'll be switching down to City Hall, covering the mayor as he brings us up to date, and also Chief Darrell Gates will be there and Fire Chief Donald Manning. In addition to that, President Bush has now scheduled a talk to the nation about the emergency in Los Angeles and the outbreaks of violence in other cities in the wake of the Rodney King beating verdict, and that will happen at 3 this afternoon. Local time, 3 o'clock this afternoon, the President will be speaking to the nation about the situation in Los Angeles.
All right, right now we have somebody on the phone from LAX. I'm not sure who yet. I'm just told that we are going to go to somebody on LAX who is on the line to find out what the situation is there with all this smoke. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
What is the situation there with all the smoke? How is it affecting air traffic?
Well, first of all, I'm Lee Nichols, and I'm the Public Relations Director here.
Thank you.
There is smoke east of the airport. There was yesterday. There is today. What the Federal Aviation Administration has done is they have routed the aircraft landings in from over the Pacific Ocean. So we're having basically approaches from over the water into the airport. And then the takeoffs are also out over the water. So because we have what we call opposing operations, they've had to cut down on the number of operations, so that has slowed things down somewhat here.
Is all the heat from the fires affecting as far as turbulence?
Well, the aircraft, as I understand it, are not flying over that immediate area, so I don't really think that's a problem.
Mr. Nichols, I know that the normal approaches are from the east over the area, and if you have to go to your night takeoff and landing system over the water, I imagine, as you say, it slows it down. How much is it slowing it down? What effect is it having on aircraft in other areas and schedules in other areas of the country?
Well, first of all, right here at LAX, yesterday we had delays of up to about 3 hours. Right now, this morning, it's not quite so bad. It's running about 30 minutes at the present time. We just had a briefing from the FAA on the situation. I understand, as far as the nationwide, system-wide situation goes, that some of the airlines have canceled and delayed flights to and from Los Angeles because of this. I would suggest that people who are going to be traveling contact their particular airline to find out what the situation is.
Indeed, because with the hub and spoke system of air travel these days, a 30-minute delay out of Los Angeles can mean a misconnection in Dallas or Chicago or Denver, which are major hub and spoke airports.
That's right. We want to assure people, though, that the airport is open and that it is safe here at the airport. People have been calling about that, and we've had no trouble here, and the airport is definitely open.
So a lot of people think that flights are canceled?
Well, some flights have been canceled. They should check with their individual airline, though, but many flights are still going, and some are delayed, but there's a lot of activity here. A lot of people are still using the airport.
What is the scene down there? Is it the freeways are almost like a ghost city today? What is the airport like? You've seen a lot fewer people?
Well, Friday is a pretty heavy day here. I would say it's somewhat less heavy than normal. Thursday, yesterday, normally would have been a heavy day, too, and particularly in the afternoon and late afternoon, I noticed it was quite a bit lighter than usual. I came here this morning from Alhambra on the I took the 710, the 91, and the 405 freeway, kind of came in a circle, and I got here quicker than I've ever gotten here.
Yeah, this is the day, if you want to travel the freeways, the day to do it. Probably want to get out of town, it'd be a day to do it, too, but we don't know what's going to happen this afternoon, but that's out of your league, I'm sure.
Well, one other thing I might mention, some people rely on door-to-door shuttle services, and they might want to double-check on that because some are not operating, some are not going into certain areas.
Yeah, that's a good point because so many people do take the shuttle services and, of course, the airport flyaway buses. And how about the flyaways? Have you heard?
The flyaway is operating from Van Nuys to LAX.
Okay, so that's operating. I did see yesterday morning when I got up rather early, if I remember correctly. It was about 1 o'clock. I did see one of the shuttle services cruising a freeway I was on, and I thought to myself, I wonder if that's such a smart idea given in the state of emergency. But they were operating, and I guess, as you say, the best thing to do is to call and find out which are operating and which are not.
I think that's a good idea.
Okay. Mr. Nichols, thank you very much. Spokesman for the Los Angeles City Airport Authority, which operates LAX. And LAX is open and operating, although some airlines have canceled or delayed flights.
And he's saying it's a little light there, and I'm sure people who had planned trips out here, I'm sure many of them, knowing what's going on here, have canceled, or some of them have canceled the trip.
Yeah, it's 9:03 on Friday morning. The state of emergency does still exist in the city of Los Angeles. The dawn to dusk or dusk to dawn curfew it has been in effect over the entire city. Obviously, at dawn, it was lifted, and people are allowed to go out onto the streets again, but the streets have been quiet. The freeways have been traveled rather lightly today, and I think a lot of people are just deciding that it's a better idea to stay around home and not venture forth so much today. And that certainly is helping the situation, as even though fires are burning, and we're looking at the latest one down on Slauson Boulevard, which is a paint factory, Sherman-Williams, it continues to burn, but the numbers of fires starting is diminishing, and slowly, ever so slowly, control is being reestablished. And a lot of that happens to be because the city of Los Angeles and the sheriff's deputies from the county have been bolstered by 2,000 National Guard troops, which are now patrolling the streets of Los Angeles, and there are 4,000 others that are in the process of being deployed or standing by to be deployed if needed. And President Bush, about an hour and a half ago, announced that he was committing 1,000 federal law enforcement personnel, primarily FBI agents and U.S. Marshals, to Los Angeles, and he's made available 4,000 federal troops from Fort Ord up near Monterey. They are now on their way to Los Angeles and can be used if needed, but won't unless Mayor Bradley and the other local authorities say that they need them.
We might also want to go over some of the statistics we have here. We have, according to police, 31 people who were killed. We don't know if that may be 32 because they did find a body over in the Fox Hills area in a burned-out building. So we don't know if that's 31 or 32. The fire department says since this all broke out, they've responded to 4,800 different calls for structure fires. But we also saw a row of homes this morning, Gene, as you remember, that had been burned out. So it's not just structure fires like we're seeing here, but also homes that have been affected by this.
Yeah, commercial buildings. Most people feel that most of this arson is directed against commercial buildings, but we did see that row of homes over there in south central Los Angeles, and certainly those were homes that people lived in, and those people are now homeless because of the fires. And 2,000 structure fires in all, although 4,800 dispatches. That meant 4,800 calls came into dispatchers. Not all those calls were, some of them were false alarms, but 2,000 structure fires, and 30 at a time were burning yesterday afternoon. If you anywhere near Los Angeles and looked out, it certainly looked as though we had some kind of a war going on here. It reminded me, quite frankly, of the Israeli invasion of Lebanon in 1982. But certainly the scene appeared the same as fire and smoke continued to pop up everywhere. I mean, the fire department would respond to one, and suddenly it would pick up someplace else, not once or twice, but we would see fires burning up Western and Vermont Avenues, out Wilshire Boulevard, fires starting in Hollywood, fires down in south central Los Angeles, fires in Long Beach, fires everywhere, and the smoke you couldn't tell where the fires were burning because there was so much smoke it all merged into one smoke cloud. All right, as we've told you numerous times this morning, it's not just here in Los Angeles. Many of the disturbances have followed Los Angeles' lead, and people have looted and burned buildings in other cities around the country. We saw it in San Francisco last night along Market Street. We saw it also in Birmingham, Alabama. In Atlanta, police say at least 26 people were injured when black protesters attacked a group of whites there, and about 300 people were arrested, Atlanta, Georgia, after the crowd smashed windows of stores and office buildings. The mayor in Atlanta has imposed a curfew, and the governor of Georgia has placed the National Guard on standby. And so we have seen this type of disturbance that started here in Los Angeles on Wednesday night after the verdict was rendered in the Rodney King beating case, and the 4 white officers were acquitted of beating Rodney King, a black motorist. Once they started here, they have begun to spread to other areas of the country, although not on the scale that we've seen here.
And we should also say there was a curfew in effect in San Francisco. Over there, there was also looting in stores, and about 1,000 people were arrested up there. So it's happening in all parts of Southern California, also up north, San Francisco and Las Vegas, where today they said they found the body of a 14 or 15-year-old child in a burned-out building. They say they put out the fire, and they didn't know that somebody was still in there when they came back. They found a 14 or 15-year-old child.
We talked to city fire people just a little while ago, and there was a body also found here near the Fox Hills area once they cleared out the rubble of a burned-out building, and there was a body found inside. And we suspect that this might be happening over the next couple of days. The fires have been so widespread, there have been so many of them, and the fire department has had to jump from place to place and hasn't had the opportunity to do the checks that they normally do after they put out a fire. So we think probably there will be more people that are found victims of these fires, perhaps the people that set them, we don't know, perhaps the people that own the buildings and took stands against the looters, or perhaps the looters themselves who got trapped by the crush of people inside once the building got started. That is just pure speculation on our part, but there is a good possibility that type of thing will happen. 1,000 people have been arrested so far here in the city of Los Angeles since the emergency was declared on Wednesday night. And also overnight there have been 4, now 5 officer-involved shootings where officers had to use deadly force against looters or against people that were committing armed assaults or armed robberies. And Joe McMahon reported just a little while ago, you saw it all unfold here live, where a police car with 2 officers in it was driving west on Manchester and was ambushed by a man, a gunman with an AK-47. He opened fire, wounded the 2 officers. Only minor injuries, we're happy to report. But a following police car with 4 officers in it managed to return fire. They wounded that suspect. He also with minor wounds, and he was taken to the hospital where he's talking to officers now. But the weapon, that AK-47, was recovered, and that situation is over down there, but it shows the tension that still exists here on the streets here in Los Angeles.
And Gene, we're going to go live now to Vernon Odom. He is from our Philadelphia sister station, and he is live at Beverly and La Brea. Vernon.
Yes, I'm outside Sam's Camera Shop, a popular place that employs about 70 people here in Hollywood. It was completely burnt out. The entire store gutted last night in a arson that broke out around 4:30. It was looted first, then they set it ablaze. That's the partial owner walking around with the bag in his hand, assessing the kind of damage. It looks like they've had a complete loss here in terms of inventory, things like that. This is unique because a number of people who live in the neighborhood around here came to help fight the fire last night. A number of the employees who work here, some of the 70 people who were employed at Sammy's, an old store here, came to help fight the fire last night. This is Michael Ackman. Michael, tell me what happened last night after you got here and what went on.
Well, by the time we got here, the whole place was on fire. It was really burning really hot, and we just tried all we can to help put out the fire, but it was kind of too late. And we were just very pleased that everybody helped. The whole community came out to help us try to put out the fire, although at that point there was nothing we could do. It
looks like the entire inventory destroyed, a lot of people like yourself out of work for a good while at this point. What's your reaction, some of your thoughts about all this?
Well, as a young cinematographer, Sammy has helped me over the years. I've been coming here for 4 years, and it's really terrible that everything is just gone, and it's really bad.
What will you do now for employment or for a job during this period? Has the manager and the owner told you they'll reopen or try to rebuild?
Well, I'm going to help Sammy as much as I can if they're going to rebuild whatever they want to do at this point, and from there on I'll decide what I want to do.
In your neighborhood, do you get the sense that people are ready for this to end now, even perhaps some participants in some of this?
Yes, I think it's actually ending, and I hope it does, because it doesn't make sense.
This is Chi Bui, who is another employee here. Tell me some of your thoughts when you got here last night and you watched your job go up in flames.
You're upset, you know. It's like, what are you guys doing out there, you know? this nonsense. It's just stupid. It's just stupidity, you know. And what do you do? I mean, what if you go home and your house is burned down and your job is burned down? What are you gonna do? You know, how are you gonna pay rent today?
Many people have said that this is a rebellion in the wake of the...
That's BS, you know. It's not, it's going beyond that. It's, you know, taking whatever you can. It's, you know, robbing your neighbors, burn it down, you know, distracting people at one area, then going to the next, you know. To the people that's doing this shit, you know, I hope when you go home, you see this, you know, happening to your house, to your business, then you would feel what we're feeling right now. When you go to your business and find out that you don't have a job, then you would feel all the anger that we're feeling right now.
Thank you very much. That young lady obviously very upset about developments here in Hollywood. She's lost her job. So have more than 70 people here at Sam's Camera Shop in Hollywood at the corner of Beverly and Detroit. You can see them assessing the damage, trying to clean up here right now. I'm Vernon Odom, reporting live for Channel 7 Eyewitness News. Gene and Susan?
All right, Vern, thank you. We have had a changing of the guard here. It's Harold Green and Christine Lund. Good morning, Los Angeles, as we pick up our continuing coverage of what has been transpiring in the streets of Los Angeles since we left you last night. And we welcome you this morning. We are, in fact, you can step right in. And
let's go to work
as we like to say in the business, we'll saddle up on the air and bring you the very latest developments. Chris, here at a glance now, some of the major developments that have been taking place. We will bring you the very latest information that we have. 27 people have died in Los Angeles, 1 in Long Beach, Compton, San Bernardino. There are at least 1,235 injuries, including 3 firefighters, 2 of whom were shot. Also, let's look at the fire situation. The very latest we have now from the Los Angeles Fire Department is this. At least 1,500 fires have been burning in Los Angeles sometime over the last 35 hours or so. More than 100 Korean-owned stores in South Central Los Angeles and Koreatown were burned, looted, or robbed. And the estimate of damage now, Chris, running at some $200 million. This, according to the mayor's office, that figure surely will go up. Earlier, Art Rascon was at a Chief's Auto Parts store in Koreatown. The manager, the assistant manager of that particular store said that he had lost $500,000 worth of inventory alone. So we would assume that this $200 million damage estimate is on the light side right now. They are also telling us from the LAPD that some 3,000 people have been arrested, mostly in Los Angeles County, most of them for looting. The other areas that are affected now, Chris, as we've been hearing from our reporter Bob Banfield in the Inland Empire, San Bernardino, Fontana, Rialto, and of course closer to home here in Hollywood, Culver City, Hawthorne, Santa Monica, Inglewood, Linwood, Southgate, Torrance, Pomona, and San Fernando. Chris.
Right, as we continue the coverage and go through all of these things, we're going to also be looking at other cities that have been affected, and some of the good things to tell you about are that the freeways are pretty light. That curfew really, I hear it, thank you very much, Madam Producer. And some very positive things to report, and we're going to be getting to those too. Joe McMahon standing by. Looks like there's a hot situation right there. Joe, tell us about it.
Okay, Chris, we're at Figueroa and 51st Street in the rear of a liquor store that fronts on Figueroa Street. And Marty, if you can pan over here, the police have come here and they've now taken into custody 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We have 7 suspects here. We're told that they were inside this business and were looting it. We have a captain from the LAPD. Can you tell us exactly what's going on and when did this happen?
Well, the store was obviously burned out yesterday or the day before, and as we were on patrol, we just noticed a group of people inside who were looting what was left, and they've got bags of booze and stuff like that.
Everybody out of the store now? Is this all of them?
We've gotten everybody out.
Okay, and have you seen, is this continuing? Are we still having a lot of looting down here? I know yesterday was endemic.
Oh, yes, it's about as bad as it was yesterday. Of course, it's still early. You know, people are tired from looting all night, and, you know, they had to get a little rest, so...
Okay, Captain, thank you very much. That's the situation. We were down here since about 5:30 this morning, and we thought there was an air of peace down here, and then that perhaps some of this looting would stop, but apparently we were very wrong. We have 7 suspects in custody at this liquor store, burned out yesterday, as the captain mentioned. They were in there taking whatever liquor remained, and the looting does continue. and the situation doesn't seem to be improving very dramatically down here in south central Los Angeles. I'm Joe McMahon reporting live from 51st and Figueroa. Back to you, Harold and Chris.
Hey, Joe, while we have you on the line briefly, you were at the scene of a shooting. We are still trying to put together the very latest statistics on this. You were there when gunfire erupted. Our latest information now is that 3 men dead, 7 others wounded in various shootings. Tell us about the one that you covered just within the hour.
Well, Harold, 2 police officers were driving westbound on Manchester, and they drove past a parking lot, and there was a man crouched next to a wall with an AK-47 semi-automatic assault-style rifle. And here you see some of the folks being loaded up and taken into custody, put into the cars to be taken downtown and booked for this looting. In any event, we'll just go on with this story. As they were driving past that parking lot, the man crouching next to the wall opened fire with that AK-47 rifle. He fired approximately 5 to 6 shots. The officers were hit, but only suffered minor injuries. And I can't tell you how fortunate they were. That is a very, very nasty, nasty round, an AK-47. And fortunately for them, they immediately got out of the area, but there was another police car following them. And the officers, 4 officers in that car, stopped and opened fire on the suspect. They hit him once in the head, but as the tape I think you're probably looking at now shows, he was up. He seemed to be communicating. He was moving about as they loaded him into the paramedic ambulance, and everybody is going to survive that shooting incident. Now, the police tell us that the man was there as a sniper. Manchester is heavily used by police going back and forth to staging areas. He knew that if he waited there long enough, a black and white was going to come along, and he'd have a target. But fortunately, nobody was killed. The police officers only suffered minor injuries.
Okay, Joe.
Thanks a whole lot for that.
Thanks for the update there. We'll be getting back to you as the situation warrants.
Right. One of the interesting things is how things have worked, the efforts that we have made so far. And as big as this city is, and the fact that the curfew was widely ignored, the extent to which it was observed and obeyed by people, we are enjoying a sense of peace this morning, a sense of the beginning of control, definitely a sense of the end of mob rule that we saw all day long yesterday. So there are definite improvements.
The presence of the National Guard troops unquestionably helped heighten that. And we would also like to bring you up to speed that President Bush has now given the permission to activate federal troops. They are at Fort Ord, and they will be deployed to this area as well. And he said that, need be, he will activate even more federal troops. So
the possibility exists. In fact, they are going to be deployed, same as the federal troops, deployed but called upon to move in as necessary. So it's a very important thing to know that they are there. That whole sense of a presence of authority has been one of the most healing and stabilizing things that we've seen. And some of the other entities that are going to be called in.
Nothing like
Border
a
Patrol,
fully equipped soldier to give a healing, calming effect to a riot.
Border Patrol, prison guard officials are being called in. And
all as part
SWAT,
of the federal troops, yes.
SWAT also being
FBI,
called
I guess
in.
they're bringing in hundreds of FBI agents. Is that right?
Right.
Is that what you heard?
Standing by, ready to move, but not going to work just yet. But everybody needs to know that, in fact, they are there, they are in place, and we can all enjoy the sense of anticipation of good order being restored today as the day goes on.
Well, we hope so. We also know that schools are out, and there are, in fact, a lot of young people who are in these troubled areas, not to imply that they are going to take part, but as we have seen over the last couple of days, Chris, when the looting began and the like, it began to feed on itself, and people joined in, oftentimes appearing to almost be in a joyous mood and moving from store to store, and that potential exists today. We are also very hopeful, though, that the looting and the police presence today will subside. Arson appears to be down. Between 3 o'clock and about 6 o'clock this morning, the number of fires apparently had subsided. But Newscopter 7 with Ron Soto just showed us a short time ago a couple of fresh fires had erupted, one down near Skid Row down at 6th and Union, I believe. It was at a coffee shop, a restaurant erupted within the hour. So we're seeing pockets of resistance continuing.
And realistically, we can expect that. But I guess it's important to keep in mind 2 picture frames, yesterday and today, and how much better today is so far and how much better we hope it's going to continue. The sky is still filled with smoke, but one of the things about these fires to keep in mind when we see all that smokiness and when we smell it and when we just feel physically how different life is in Los Angeles in the middle of this siege is that lot of those fires and the source of the smoke is rekindles. They're not new fires. The city, realistically, truthfully, is a scorched out mess in an awful lot of places, and that keeps putting smoke in the air, and we still continue to have that visceral sense of the violence that we experienced yesterday. Rekindles is what we're talking about. The world watching us, though, we know that, and the newspapers from other big cities reporting their reaction to it. The British Mail had a rather scathing thing to say to us about it. They said that racism in the United States of America is as American as apple pie. French President Mitterrand said that all the violence is a direct result of President Bush's administration and the neglect of social programs.
Yeah.
So they're not looking kindly on this.
Not too kindly at all. All right, we have Art Rascone out at a location in Los Angeles. Art, what can you tell us?
All right, Harold, we brought to you about a half an hour ago a positive story about Edward James Olmos, as well as just a large group of about 90 to 100 individuals who converged on a neighborhood, on a city shopping strip that was simply devastated by yesterday's looting and fires, and they cleaned it up in a matter of 15 minutes. They're walking down the block here. We've been trying to follow them, and we were walking with them, and you can see a couple of individuals still here, and the rest of them are about a block down the street. They're already just every street they come to, every shopping strip that's devastated, that's debris littered the area, they simply clean it up. Let me ask an individual here as to why. You know, obviously you want to get the community back together, and that's your main goal.
That's correct. We're out here in support of Edward James Olmos, and we think that it's something positive. And you can see by as you look down the street, when we first got out here, we had about 20 people that snowballed. I think this shows that people truly care about the community that they live in, and that they want this to stop. And they
want to take back the streets.
Correct. We'd like to first clean them up and then begin to rebuild as soon as possible.
And it's going to be tough to rebuild.
That's true. We hope that people who have business interests here within the community do not leave. We hope that they stay. We hope that business owners come out and join in this effort to help clean up around their properties.
All right, thank you very much. The group is moving so fast that we're not able to keep up with them. We've been following them along. They've grown to about 100 now here on Southwestern and 36th, and they continue to grow. Individuals keep joining in, and they start cleaning up. They bring brooms, and they have bags, and they have dumpsters, and they're just throwing garbage in that has littered the areas. And so it's an important effort, and an effort, obviously an inspiring one, because of the destruction and devastation that has existed over the past couple of days, something, of course, that puts a smile, I think, on everyone's faces. It's a diverse group as well, because obviously Los Angeles being a melting pot, it's not a soup, it's a stew right now, and so if we learn to mix together, obviously, that can only help, and this is one effort of doing so. Reporting live from South Central and Western, I'm Art Rascone. Harold?
Thanks, Art, so much for that.
You know, one of the things to keep in mind, too, Chris, is that this is the first opportunity many of these people have had to come out of their homes. They have been in a war zone. They have been subjected to gunfire and arsonists and the like, looters, and it's their first time to get out. They have taken a look around. They don't like what's happened to their neighborhoods, and at the urging of Edward James Olmos right here on Channel 7 last night, they answered the call. They're out, and they're beginning to clean up. And I think this is what you were alluding to earlier. Today we're going to see more of the human side of this tragedy that has really captured our total attention since the verdict went down Tuesday afternoon out in Simi Valley.
I think it would be naive to think that it's just suddenly going to end. No one expects that. But the healing and the human things are going to start happening, and we're certainly going to be watching for them. And we were talking about it upstairs. We're going to watch for those positive things because they are just as real a part of the story as all of the dark things, and critical to reflect to the community right now. Yesterday we didn't have a lot of choice. It was all chaos. Today we do have a choice, and we're going to be covering it. But Long Beach is having its own serious problems.
Mayor Bradley is going to go on the air reportedly within the next couple of minutes, so we want to be standing by for that. Tom Bradley will be speaking to us from City Hall shortly, so I want to get that in.
Right, and just momentarily we're going to be hearing from an official from the Los Angeles Fire Department, and we're going to be ready to take them too. And you know, one thing while we're waiting for that, to consider the fact that an awful lot of these policemen and fire people have not been spelled. Of course, the shifts are really out of the question. Yesterday you and I helped them out, issued an alert for everybody to call their battalions and be on standby and report and go to work. A lot of them have been working for 24 hours. if you can imagine what it would be like to work in the intense way that they've had to work,
well, let's
such
find out.
extraordinary conditions, it's a killer, and they're still hanging in there and working for us. Can we go to them now?
We have Steve Ruda
Good.
from the Los Angeles Fire Department. Steve, have you been hearing what Christine has been saying?
Yes, good morning, and it is true. The firefighters that we just relieved, even as we speak, have been on the fire lines for a minimum of 24 hours. Some firefighters who have been working double shifts have been working 48 hours. So they have really felt the sting of battle.
Okay, that sounds just exactly like what we were concerned about. Just the fatigue factor setting in. Certainly the successes are absolutely phenomenal. So many people in areas that were almost becoming numb to the fact that fires kept breaking out said that the response time was really shortening and was virtually normal in some places. How in the world are you able to do that when you're looking at so many rekindles and still the persistent new fires?
Well, what we're trying to do is we've reinforced our firefighting resources with fire prevention inspectors who have left their duties in the Fire Prevention Bureau inspecting buildings as they normally do and have put on their turnout coats, manned fire apparatuses, and gone out there and helped the regular firefighters fight the battle.
Steve, can you give us an update on the fire situation? I reported just a short time ago the latest information that we have at Eyewitness News is that there have been at least 1,400 fires in Los Angeles since Tuesday night or Wednesday night. Can you bring us up to speed now as to how many are burning, how many active fires we have?
Sure. What since last Thursday at midnight till this morning at midnight, we had over 4,833 dispatches, and that was actual dispatches that our dispatchers at OCD, which is our Operational Control Division, were putting out to the firefighters in the field. You can almost double the phone intake that these dispatchers have been taking to monitor the 911 system. Since that time of midnight of last night, we had reported structure fires. 2,068 calls were structure fires in themselves. But
how many? Excuse me.
Since at 5 o'clock this morning, the dispatchers have gone down to about 518, and probably we're working on about 5 major structure fires right now. Most of the things that you see from your helicopter view are the burnout shells. Our strategy and tactics, as we've talked about the last couple of days, have gone in. We knock down the big bulk of the fire. We make sure that there's no life hazards or exposure problems. Knock the fire down, make sure that it's not going to cause a problem with exposures, and move on to the next fire. Now, hopefully today, fresh companies will be able to get back into the community and kind of turn over, if you will, the rekindles and make sure that they're dead out.
I have one question that comes from some scary reports that I've been hearing. That is that people, now that the curfew is up, it's daylight, they can move around, are walking into these buildings that have got to be structurally unsound. We've seen them. They are gutted. They've got to be compromised, in some cases ready to fall down, and still people are going in there, I guess looking for things. They're curious. Can you say something to those folks?
It's extremely important for these people to realize the dangers that they've placed themselves in. We asked the good, abiding citizens who are listening to me this morning, they are already staying out of these areas. The ones that are going into the areas are the bad people of the community, the ones that are causing the problem. And hopefully with the help of the LAPD and the CHP, who've been so good to us in the last few days, escorting us into the areas, and the resources from the National Guard will allow the PD to do their job and to get in there and to make these people avoid getting into these structures. But the looky-loos, we don't need you in that particular area. You're just putting yourself into danger.
Yeah, I have a hunch the LAPD and the National Guard would echo that as well. Steve, earlier on, we found a body in one of the burned-out buildings. As I understand your tactics thus far, unlike a normal situation, generally rolling up, fighting the fires from the outside, and then moving on. Do you think that one body, perhaps a harbinger of things to come?
I think that there is a good possibility under normal firefighting conditions where we're able to send in search and rescue teams under certain fire conditions to make a search of the building. But when you see the intensity of these fires, when it's a structure that's fully involved, those types of situations don't allow us to do search and rescue. And I wouldn't be surprised if there would be possibilities of trapped looters, of people that were trapped in their own fires that have been caught during their act of arson.
All right. Thank you so much, Steve Ruda, LA City Fire Department. We appreciate the information and the update there, and we will continue to check back with you from time to time. And your people have got to be dog-tired. I saw one of the staging areas, and understandably, a lot of the men and women had that glazed-over look of fatigue. But when the bell rang, so to speak, they got back up, they boarded the apparatus, and off they went again. And
this morning they had interviewing a couple of the firefighters that had just come off the lines, and they had that look of a good feel that they were able to contribute to the community. They said that people were bringing their kids out of the house, and they were giving a wave to the firemen as they returned back to the staging area. And that in itself was encouragement to the firemen, because the firemen are part of that community. They live there, they shop there, the stores have been destroyed. Even the stores that we ourselves as firefighter and paramedics shop in and work in. So we'll help rebuild this community with a spirit that we can help put back in there.
You know, I just fill up inside when I think about what the LA City Fire Department's done. They've never been tested so hard as they have been in the last 36 hours, 48 hours now, really.
Since the 60s.
Never has happened. Maybe this is unique because the fires are greater, and we know they haven't had a break. I heard some very touching stories about some police and some firefighters that they were lucky enough to find a place that was still open where they could get some breakfast. Most places are shut down in the areas that were hardest hit, and they were able to get a little breakfast and a little something to drink to just keep on going, and after 24 hours, and how hard that work is. Hauling those hoses, the stress, the physical strain, boy, our hearts go out to them. It's the toughest in the world.
And that's an interesting point. Thanks again, Steve. An interesting point. The people we mentioned in the communities that have been devastated by the rioters and the looters, the law-abiding citizens are now coming forth. They, too, are confronted now with a neighborhood that is dysfunctional. There isn't any place to get. The markets are closed. They've been looted. They've been burned out. The businesses, understandably, are shut down. They will not open today. Basic necessities are not available. Good news, with the exception of that area, good news in that the Southern California Rapid Transit District will resume normal service on most of its lines today, but some lines within the violence-wrecked South Los Angeles and Hollywood areas will remain suspended. So my point is that to the people in the ravaged areas, you're probably going to have to walk quite a distance today to get a bus, to get to what you need or to your job or whatever. And it's going to remain that way, unfortunately, for quite a while for the residents of that area. It's
right,
a tough
the price
situation.
that they have to pay now begins to be felt, because the services aren't there. You can't go any place and get anything to eat.
No, and
Women with
power
children
is
can't
out.
get anything.
Power is out in so many areas. Last night,
huge numbers of people.
Captain Ron was flying over Los Angeles, and we were looking at a fire, but it dawned on me that there were just pockets of blackness in the city.
That's right.
And you just knew that this was because power had gone out. And as I understand it, the power company will not send people into those areas to repair service until they're absolutely convinced that there is no danger to the work people. And it's understandable. We're not even close to that. No way.
Absolutely right. And, you know, we've got we had Steve Ruda on the phone there with the LAFD, and he was saying that the people who are not cooperative are the ones who are going in there and poking around those burned out buildings, putting themselves in danger, good folks staying away. With one exception, though, and that's the kids. Every single school, of course, shut down, and every single adult needs to be mindful that children are everywhere. All the private schools are shut down, all the public schools are shut down. That means that tens and thousands of children. And we all just need to kind of think about them, need to be conscious.
Potentially dangerous situation for all of us.
Clearly.
Yeah.
Because they're not going to be supervised. It's just not going to be that way. You were talking about a rapid transit service beginning to be restored, good sign. Huge numbers of companies, and the really big ones, have made across-the-board corporate decisions to shut down. The list too long even to go down. But the downtown very, very quiet. As a result, the freeways are pretty much sailing along. Even the Harbor Freeway, which was shut down both ways for a certain period of time. 405 is flying. 110 is flying.
Yeah, easy to get in today, wasn't it?
Yes, it was.
Let's
no
go upstairs and take a look. We'll get a bird's eye view. Newscopter 7 from Richard Soto. Richard, what can you tell us?
Good morning, Hero and Christine. Right now, there hasn't been any new fires within the last 20 to 30 minutes. The last major one that we covered was on 60th and Western. Right now, we're flying over 27th Street and Western, and just going to slowly cruise down southbound along Western Boulevard. And as it gets further on south, you can see many burnt.
Well,
hey, Richard having a
he's
little
in
bit of a problem,
position there where
understandably.
we should tell you that because Los Angeles right now is the focus of the world's attention, if you will, at least the world's media, there is so much microwave units transmitting in the air over Los Angeles right now. Sometimes I think they bounce off of each other. Let's get back up to Richard. I think we've cleared up the signal. Richard, you're back on live with us.
Okay, right now we're proceeding southbound along Western Boulevard. We just passed Martin Luther King Boulevard and Western, and we're just still going southbound. I don't see any new fires, just smoke from the fires from last night and early this morning.
Hey, Richard, that looks good. We're beginning to enjoy a sense of relief. Hard to quantify exactly what it means, but sure, it makes life easier if there are not lots and lots of people on the streets and on the freeways. Makes it easier for the critical services folks to do their job, too. They don't have to discriminate between travelers and people who they really need to be watching, and that's a very good thing today.
Yeah, but there it is. We're talking about those flare-ups and the rekindles. And just on any other day, this time of year, you would say, well, that's just your L.A. haze.
Not
but
today.
Not today. And last night, as a matter of fact, when we left the studios here in Hollywood, Chris, we were talking about it. We were both struck by the enormous amount of smoke that was all over Los Angeles and the Hollywood area. And today it has subsided. Richard, as a pilot, does it appear to you that the smoke is dissipated, or that it has it's dropped lower? What would you classify this as?
The smoke has dissipated a little bit, but it's still pretty thick out here. Visibility is basically around 3 miles visibility, 3 to 4 miles. And with the angle of the sun at this time, just flying into it, it drops down to almost 2 to 1 mile visibility.
Richard, one thing, the plumes of smoke that we do see working there, and they're white, they're the right kind if we're going to have them at all. They seem to be not being blown over all the way to one side. They're rising quietly pretty much upward. Is the wind helping us?
The wind is helping us a little bit. There's not much wind down here. I would say somewhere in the neighborhood about 5 to 10 knots. So as the smoke rises, it just hangs there. And we had so many fires that they all just joined together and just made one big cloud of smoke hanging over L.A.
Still looks that way pretty much. I mean, that's the visibility really pretty compromised, although certainly better from yesterday, wouldn't you say?
It's a lot better than from yesterday. It's starting to clear up a lot. It's still pretty bad, but it's a lot better.
Since you've been on duty, Richard, this morning, or I should say since sun up, what have you seen? A couple of 3 new fires?
Since I came in at 5, I've seen we're coming up to the last one, which was on 60th and Western. We had 2 more new ones. One was over by MacArthur Park Lake. That was a restaurant, and I believe that was the 2 new ones that we covered. So it's tapered off a lot.
It has tapered, but there are still arsonists out on the streets of Los Angeles. No doubt about it.
Presumably, that's true. And unfortunately, too. But while we're watching Los Angeles, for obvious reasons, it's clear, beginning to quiet down. Orange County, which has not been that affected, no way does it look like this. They experienced a really particularly miserable rush hour. The freeways were clogged and jammed, and the orange crush came about in full force. So while that's uncomfortable, basically that's a reflection of the fact that life there is relatively normal. There's a working fire. That black smoke tells us that it's a bad one. Certainly the flames do, too, that have eaten right through the top of that roof. Looks like certainly a commercial building.
Is that the restaurant, Richard?
The one we're circling over right now, this is the one on 60th and Western. We circled this before. It's been going now for about the last hour, and this one's a real stubborn one because it's a paint warehouse that stores a lot of combustible material.
Oh,
is that Sherman-Williams factory that we've been watching?
Yes, Christine, this is the one.
Well, that's very, very potentially dangerous for the firefighters, as we know, all the combustible ingredients inside. Richard, once again, we see that the firefighters are escorted by police and CHP, so that tactical maneuvering remains in effect.
Yes, they are being escorted by the LAPD and the CHP, and all around this fire, I see them, LAPD is protecting the firemen.
But it looks like the firemen are able to move within that perimeter freely, and they're attacking this fire with the hook and ladder units and whatever else they need.
One more point I'd like to make. I'm not sure if they had problems with the water pressure or if they're just going to let this fire burn out, because I don't see any... right now I see someone putting some water on the fire at this time.
Okay, well, that's a possibility. We have really taxed most of the facilities throughout that region, and all bets are on that anything is possible right now. So thanks, Richard. We'll keep an eye on what is, in fact, perhaps the most active and ferocious fire burning in Los Angeles right now, and it is, in fact, an arson-set fire.
Kay, we've got our crews all over the place. They're going to stay that. They've been doing a wonderful job. One of them, Stephen No, standing by right now. He is at Western and Wilshire, I believe. If I'm wrong, he'll correct us. Let's find out what he has to tell us. Stephen.
That's exactly right, Christine. We're here at Western and Wilshire. Just an update on the story here. There were looters here behind me at this boys' market, and they left just as soon as LAPD officers arrived on scene. They are now waiting for the National Guard, and standing here with me is Sergeant Jim Richard. You asked for the National Guard, at about 9 o'clock. That would be about 45 minutes ago. Any word?
I just spoke to my home base and approximately about 10, 15 minutes ago. They advised us that the National Guard is being briefed right now, and it's possible that they might be out here within the next hour. We're not quite sure at this point, though.
They're being briefed on this particular situation or the general picture?
Apparently they're at the staging area. They're just getting advice about what their responsibilities are when they respond to different locations, and from what I understand, this is basically what's going to be discussed right at this point, and that's it.
I'm going to guess that their response time is not as quick as you'd like it to be.
Well, we definitely would have liked to have them out here much sooner than this. I have one squad with me right now. We have 10 officers, and it would probably take about 3 or 4 National Guardsmen to secure this location. I think that applies to most any location that LAPD's responded to and has secured.
You're roving around to try to secure different places. How long can you afford to stay here until the National Guard shows up?
Yesterday, we probably would have only stayed here just a brief. In fact, we were here yesterday a couple of times, and once we got the looters out of the location, we had to respond to another location because it was very intense all day yesterday. And today, I think we can afford to spend a little bit more time and secure the location, which we are, and of course, in anticipation the National Guard is going to respond to the Boys Market today.
Okay, all right, thank you very much. Sergeant Jim Richard here, standing by in front of the Boys Market, waiting for the National Guard. Reporting live, I'm Stephen No. Now back to you in Hollywood.
Well, under similar circumstances, I should say under different circumstances, that would almost sound like the name of a tune, wouldn't it? Standing in front of the Boys Market waiting for the National Guard. Well, serious business today, though. And can you believe the devastation? Now, we watched that location yesterday, Chris. That's where they were driving up in their cars, people getting out, walking in like they were on a Sunday afternoon shopping spree, pulling virtually everything out of there, hour after hour. Last night at 6 o'clock, we actually saw someone arrive in a yellow cab. They took a cab to loot a store. This may be a first in Southern California. We had it right here live, and put that in a time capsule. But today, I'm quite shocked at what it looks like.
Well, you kind of braced for it. Yesterday, who could imagine what it was going to look like the day over when the smoke had begun to clear just a little bit, and we hope it stays that way. But talking about the Boys Market that we were just looking there with Stephen, that's one of the supermarkets chains that has shut down its stores in the affected area. None of them are going to be open or make any effort to try to do business today. It's just better that way.
We were mentioning some of the other areas where violence erupted. Chris had pointed out that our focus primarily has been throughout the greater Los Angeles area. Bob Banfield explained to us early on what had been taking place out in the Inland Empire. And we've received word out of Long Beach now, Chris. They've totaled up 184 fires have burned cars and buildings, including an entire block containing a supermarket and apartments, offices of the Department of Motor Vehicles and Southern California Edison. And 2 new fires erupted early today. That's the latest word out of the Long Beach area. And Long Beach officer Mike White tells Eyewitness News that the main fire targets were markets, small shops, and liquor stores. And he says the looting is continuing there. And in Long Beach so far, 300 people have been arrested. So while it would look on the surface that things are subsiding here in Los Angeles, we are beginning to understand that in areas outside of the immediate city limits of L.A., the situation continues to be quite active, and lawlessness is still the order of the day in certain sections of Long Beach, Riverside, San Bernardino, and areas such as that. Chris also pointed out earlier that they had disturbances outside the state of California last night in Las Vegas. There was had big problems in Vegas, and we pointed out yesterday Atlanta and San Francisco, and so we continue our coverage with always mindful that some of the other areas are developing problems as well.
Right, we want to reflect that things are better. It would be terribly wrong if we reflected things were normal. There's another working fire that we're looking at, black smoke rising straight up, and it's doing it quickly. That tells us that there's heat behind that smoke. That's the way to read that picture that we are looking at right now, although it's beginning to see the smoke lighten a little bit. We got the chopper picture. Does that mean that we've got our chopper pilot there to describe it for us? Yep, there. No, he's not with us.
Ron,
but we see
are
the
you over the Sherman-Williams fire?
Richard's out here.
Richard.
Yeah, Richard's over.
Right.
We're over the 60th and Western to Sherman-Williams fire, and they do have water. They are putting water on the fire at this time. You can see some white smoke coming out, but I still see a lot of flames breaking through the roof at this time.
Well, that's the kind of fire they have to really, Chris, put a lot of water on, because you can imagine what's in a paint store. And,
there's nothing but fuel, nothing but chemicals. And, of course, firefighting's become such a different thing generally, this crisis notwithstanding. You don't know what's burning now. 50 years ago, it was wood, it was plaster, it was concrete, it was steel, it was whatever it was. Right now, it's sophisticated chemical compounds, and there's no way to predict going in exactly what they are. They're lethal. And more frequently, when firefighters go in and go to work, they wear gas masks. They've got paramedics standing by to try to treat whatever is going to be affecting them neurologically, physiologically.
Right.
It is a terribly complicated and sophisticated job going in to fight these kinds of fires.
And that can be in just a house fire in this day and age. They go in and they have to wear the air tanks, and because our homes, as you pointed out, all the composition is such that the fire produces such deadly toxins. This one in particular is a very, very nasty fire, and a potential for an explosion here is very high right now. We like to, as reporters, look at these and try to give you a gauge, a rule of thumb. When you see white smoke, things are getting better, but even as we speak, you can see that the white smoke will begin to spew, and then it's followed by a complete roll of black smoke. So that thing is really cooking inside the building there, the Sherman-Williams paint factory there. We will stay over that situation as we await Tom
right
Bradley
now,
is
Harold,
coming into City Hall right now.
Yeah, we're going to be able to hear from the mayor in just a second. Let's switch there. Well, we don't see him yet.
Mark Coogan is there right now. Mark? I think Mark is on the air. I don't know if he can hear us. We were told that the mayor was going to be walking in the side door, and
we've got a very good shot of the fire extinguisher
we
there.
We got it?
Not to be interpreted as any kind of fire at City Hall.
This is coming off of his
office. We're just waiting for him to come walking in here in just a second. And there he is. There's the mayor.
I saw some of you folks here at midnight last night. Where are you sleeping? Yesterday afternoon, we imposed a citywide curfew. It was for a one-day period, and we would evaluate it and determine what would be done thereafter. There was a unanimous expression from all of the parties involved, law enforcement, fire, the merchants, people in the city, who said that the curfew was effective. True, it was somewhat difficult for some merchants, but everybody has concluded that it should be extended. So this morning, I have issued an order that the curfew will continue on a citywide basis. I think what we must remember is that this incident has truly extended to a citywide basis, from west side of Los Angeles to the east side, from south side clear to San Pedro and the San Fernando Valley. We are determined that we're going to take back the streets, that we're going to make them safe and secure for all of the people. In that connection, we made a decision yesterday that we ought to be prepared for further eventualities in the event we were not able to control it with the law enforcement resources and the National Guard. And so contacts were made with the White House and with the military to have them on a state of readiness that we might call on them for further resources. This morning at about 5:30 a.m., I received a call from the White House indicating that the President wanted to talk with Governor Wilson and me. And in our conversations, the President indicated that he was sending, at our request, 1,000 national law enforcement people, ranging from FBI to prison guards to border guards, to come into the city of Los Angeles to work with the police department and to be deployed on the streets, whether it be looting assignments or other activities. These are expected to be in place by noon today. And that in addition, he was simultaneously activating the military, the Army from Fort Ord, either 3,000 to 4,000 units to come to Los Angeles to be placed in a state of readiness. And at our joint agreement, those troops would be assigned to the streets of Los Angeles, and they would be federalized, the National Guard being under the control of the top U.S. Army official. I think with this kind of commitment of resources, we make it clear we're serious. We are going to ensure the safety of this city, and we are going to take back the streets from those thugs and hoodlums who have used this as a device, as an excuse to loot, to burn, to kill, and we will not tolerate it. I think that our law enforcement and fire officials will be able to handle their responsibilities and their assignments. And we hope to bring this matter to a close as quickly as possible. I don't think any of us are prepared to give you an estimate as to when, but as soon as possible. I can assure you that's our goal. I'm going to call on Daryl Gates, Chief of Police, to give you a report on the assessment as he sees it for what the events of the last few hours have meant. We are going to have the city resources work with federal resources to provide technical and other help to those who are in need, to the merchants in particular who have been devastated by the fires and by the looting. The SBA administrator is in City Hall at this hour, and we will later, I think shortly after 11:30, have a press availability for her to announce to the community what resources they are prepared to commit. The President, in our conversation 2 days ago, indicated he would expedite that effort, and true to his word, that administrator is here today. The grocers who serve the city have indicated their determination to restock their stores as quickly as possible. They will be working with the police department and the National Guard to provide safety and security at and around those stores, and we expect to see them up and back in business very quickly. I think that's enough for my comments at the moment. Let me turn to Daryl Gates for his.
Thank you, Mayor. As you know, last night was more of the same, but I will say, at least in the south central portion of Los Angeles, there was a lessening of the same kind of activity that we had before. We still had the looting, the shootings, the fires, and overall destruction of property, but there was, again, a lessening of it. It did move into the western and northern parts of the city. It moved into, it already had broken out in the Wilshire area, It began to move north in the Rampart area, the central area along Washington Boulevard, down Vermont, Washington, Wilshire, and then out on Hollywood Boulevard we had a great deal of activity. Also, it broke out in the harbor and into the valley area. We had extensive looting in the Panorama City Mall, and yeah, in the, of course, West Bureau, that's the Wilshire and Hollywood area. 77th was the busiest area in the south central portion of Los Angeles, but all of it was quite busy. The Guard is moving in, as you know. It's taken a little longer than all of us would have hoped, but they are moving in. We have in place 500 National Guard troops. We have an additional 340 that are on their way to assignments. That'll bring us up to over 800. We have more again on the way, and that should be very, very helpful. We've had tremendous response from law enforcement, the Highway Patrol in particular, but law enforcement in Southern California, small cities where they could only provide 4, 5, 6, even one police officer. They've sent them. We've had marshals that have come in from Orange County. We've had sheriffs from San Diego County coming here. So it's been just an incredible response. Our arrests are increasing. We're getting our legs underneath us now and being able to make more arrests. This has been a problem. Our jails have been filled, and the processing has taken it's taken a lot of time, and we have to transport them, or the sheriff then has to transport them from our jails to his. But that is moving much more quickly, and so our arrests are up substantially. There have been additional deaths. We're up to 26 now, and we have been involved in additional officer-involved shootings. We've had 3 last evening. 3 suspects were killed, 4 were wounded. And then, of course, this morning we had 2 officers who were fired upon and who were injured by that fire. Fortunately, only minor injuries at Vermont and Manchester. We're grateful for the governor and the president for designating federal forces, both the military and, of course, the federal agencies. I'm hopeful, once again, that we can, through the National Guard and through our own law enforcement efforts, that we can avoid having the national troops. I think that is a terrible thing to have happen to the city of Los Angeles, but I will tell you this, that I believe we're in a situation where, if it is necessary, we certainly must accept that and move them in as quickly as we possibly can. We cannot allow this kind of situation to continue one moment longer than is possible. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Darrell. Chief Don Manning, Fire Department.
Good morning. I think Chief Gates gave you a pretty good idea of the area that was affected, and of course that was identical for the fire department in how the operations came about. In a period of time ending at midnight, our activity level reached of just under 5,000 incidents that we had handled. And again, a normal day for us might be 900 or 1,000, an incredibly high number for us. After midnight, the activity level dropped off to about a quarter of that rate, and therefore was, I think, very, very helpful for us. The mutual aid system that we were involved in, and again, the fire service uses this frequently as the years go through for principally brush fires. It worked incredibly well for us. We had 90 mutual aid companies from other cities, and other cities give the equivalent of half of their fire department without question to this to participate. And the system, using the incident command system, works so well that they melt right into it and we had virtually no hiccups. We did have one of the mutual aid firefighters that was shot last night in the thigh, somewhere between in the neighborhood of 10 o'clock in the evening in the 98th and Vermont Street area. He is doing fine, as fine as you can with being gunshot in the thigh. We had 9 injuries, have had 9 injuries reportable of our people in this, the worst of which was the individual who was shot in the cheek with the bullet going into the neck area. And he is critical but stable at this point in time, and they're still awaiting determination on whether there will be any paralysis from that particular event. The California Highway Patrol picked up the escort service for the fire department last night, starting in the neighborhood of 8 o'clock, and that has worked very, very well for the fire department. We are looking at the activities right now. We are hopefully optimistic that this trend is going to continue. The success for the fire department is directly related to the police action and the ability to protect both the fire people and to gain back control. And as we see that happening, this de-escalation is occurring. It was very obvious to us. The curfew last night was very, very helpful. Our people did not have the interference. They did not have the number of attacks on them, and that was very, very helpful. Thank you.
Electrical service has been cut in some areas of the city and has not been restored for many hours. We've talked with Dan Waters of the Department of Water and Power this morning, and he says that with adequate police protection, they will send their crews out to restore that power. We've talked with the police department. They have agreed to assign personnel so that crews can go in and effectively restore electrical service. Many people have asked what they could do as individuals. I think that one of the things we would ask is that they cooperate with the curfew order and that they stay at home tonight. And should this matter continue during the course of that curfew, please cooperate by staying at home. We would urge them to help improve the appearance around their shops and stores and their homes by sweeping up, cleaning up broken glass, metal, whatever may be located there. Work with us, and we will work with you to improve the conditions in this city. I now want to call on President of the City Council, John Ferraro.
Thank you. As you've heard, there are some encouraging signs. And the fact that we have this additional help from the state and possibly the federal government indicates that there will be more help. All I can say is that we are frustrated, like a lot of people in the community are frustrated. We do not like this happening to our city. What is really the sad thing about it is that many of the people who are involved in these areas are going to be the ones that are going to suffer the most. The jobs that have been lost because of the burnt-out buildings is a terrible thing. And I think people have to realize that they are part of the city. They have to help. They have to encourage or discourage people from doing these terrible things that they're doing to our city. So I'm just happy that we have this additional help with the fire department and the police department, and we look forward to stopping this as soon as possible.
Thank you, John. One more speaker, a member of the school board, Jeff Horton, to say a few words about the LA Unified School District.
Thank you. In the midst of all the attention that's being turned now to cleaning up and picking up the pieces physically of the stores, I would just like to urge the people of Los Angeles to pay attention to the children in the midst of all this. The potential for damage psychologically, emotionally to the children and young people of the city is great. And I know we will be focusing on the physical cleanup and getting everything back to normal, but we in the school districts are asking everybody to take the time to stop and talk to children about this and young people, to discuss it with them, to listen to them, to hear what they have to say about it. We are also asking everybody to be ready to volunteer some time in the schools when we reopen them, probably Monday. The superintendent will be making that decision. But we are going to need the help of people from all over the community, mental health workers, psychologists, therapists, clergy, people involved in the community. We are going to need help to see that the children do not suffer psychological and emotional damage from this any more than is unavoidable. And so I just want to make this plea that as we try and get back to normal, that the state of mind and the feelings of our children and young people are absolutely essential, that we take the time to pay attention to them, to talk to them in the midst of all the other things. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll take your question. Where will they be staged? The location has not been identified. When they come in, they will be placed on standby. As we make a decision that we need them out on the streets, they will be sent to the streets, and they'll be at a location convenient for them to quickly deploy to wherever they may be needed.
Mayor Brennan, what happened between last night at midnight and this morning? Because last night at midnight you simply wanted to have the option of the federal troops, and this morning clearly the request had escalated.
Now, the request had not escalated. We explained to the president and his people where we felt we were at the moment, and the fact that the situation might get beyond our control. And so the president, in his response, felt that he could immediately assign law enforcement officials, 1,000 of them, to directly get involved and to help us. As to the troops, that's still on standby. They will be in readiness should we need them. These are the federal troops, U.S. Army, are located at Fort Ord. They are the ones that will be sent to Los Angeles immediately. They'll be on standby here, waiting our call for them to be directly involved in the activities. I want to make it clear that the National Guard agreed last night, and they hope to be able to confirm that they can move those National Guard troops into place as they promised. They'll have that information for us this morning. It was our hope, based upon their indications, that 4,000 of those troops would be assigned to the city of Los Angeles. Another 2,000 National Guard troops would be assigned to Sherman Block and the county to police and to service the areas of cities around the city of Los Angeles.
That was by noon today.
Yes,
the governor last night.
that's good.
Hope that you're going to have 6,000 National Guards.
Well, the caveat which they laid down last night, General Thrasher, was that he was going to make every effort to do that. He couldn't fully commit because he didn't know whether they'd have the resources, either the ability to move them or the ability to get them in place. But if they cannot, that was one of the turning points of our decision to call for additional help from the president.
Mayor, what can you say about the future of the city of Los Angeles? Because there seem to be a lot of people who are very demoralized and terrified by the amount of violence and anarchy that apparently has been just under the surface.
This city is strong enough that it can recover from this incident. And I'm pleased that people are coming forward. They know that the perpetrators are not the good people of this city, not the law-abiding citizens of any community in Los Angeles. They are the hoodlums who are destroying, who are trashing, who are burning, and who are killing. And they are counting on us in positions of leadership and the military and the law enforcement officials to be our front line to bring these hoodlums under control. I fully expect that to happen in short order. And then it's going to be a matter of the healing process involving the whole city. And I think that the spirit of the people in this city is such that they will come together to achieve that goal.
But Mayor, I think that is the question. Why
indicated to you what we are doing and what our resources are and our commitment to use whatever resources, even if we have to double the number we have now. I don't think that's going to be necessary. But should it be necessary, we're prepared to do that. In a matter, an incident of this kind, there has to be a massive show of strength on the part of firefighters and on the part of the law enforcement people and military if necessary, just to indicate that's a deterrent to any other isolated incidents. And so that's the reason for our trying to quickly gear up for the massive show of force by police and the military. I'm going to let Chief Gates respond to that. They're doing it already.
I'm sorry, I was talking when you were... They will go to those places that, one, we have cleaned up, that is, we have made arrests or we have cleaned in terms of their being now peaceful, and there is still something left. There are places like the market, the Ralph's Market at Vernon and Figueroa. That complex is still intact. It was not burned out, badly looted, and badly damaged, but still intact. So we have National Guard there. We will also put them in those locations where there has been no looting, but the potential is very great to protect those from further looting or for damage. That's the present plan for the deployment of the National Guard.
Chief Gates, why are you so concerned about the presence of federal troops here in the city?
Well, I think you all should be concerned about that. Think about that. The federal troops coming into the city, coming into the state of California and occupying a city. I think that, to me, that philosophically, that goes against my grain. It really does. I think it's a horrible thing, a horrible indictment of our civility within this community. I just think it's terrible, but I also think that what is necessary, and I have no hesitation in doing it. I think also you have to recognize that when the federal government comes in, when federal troops come in, that they're under the authority of the federal government, under their generals. We have a working relationship with the National Guard. I don't know how effective our working relationship will be with generals of the United States Army. I hope it will be the same compliance and same pliable relationship that we have with the National Guard. That's why I'm not opposed to it. I just think we all ought to ponder that, think about it, and think about what it means.
We saw evidence yesterday and again today of, I don't know, vigilante type action. A lot of people were store owners with guns guarding the property or people they've hired. Can you honestly tell people not to do that? Because the police are overwhelmed.
Well, I went to a place last night, early this morning actually, and where people were gathered in front of this location, the store. The store had been partially looted, and we thought that they were looting that store. We went in to try and pull them out, found out it was the owner, and the owner was armed. And he said that this is my only way. They had baseball bats, and he had a gun. And he said, this is my only way to protect my property. It's hard to tell an individual not to do that under the conditions, so we wish that was not necessary. We did see some instances where people were armed with automatic weapons and things of that nature. That's clearly going beyond what we would think is appropriate.
Let me pursue that matter of the one community in particular, Koreatown. where the merchants and the residents all day long had been calling for help. They felt that they were overwhelmed and needed some help from either the National Guard presence or the police department. They made many calls to the police department, and were told that at that time the police simply did not have the capability to respond, could not come into Koreatown. And the merchants and their friends did organize their own protection for their stores and their shopping centers. I have talked with Chief Bill Booth this morning, and I told him that we need to be certain that the National Guard troops who have come to town will be assigned there along with police officials. And so to Koreatown, we can tell you your top priority now to get some additional help to maintain the kind of safety and security which you need. I think it's unconscionable when a large area such as that feels that they cannot get enough police assistance. No.
Because the public is under the impression that we're going to get 4,000 guardsmen in place, and they were expecting them today.
That's exactly right. That was a commitment of the governor and General Thrasher. We expect that they are going to be in place, and it wasn't a matter of piecemealing. They agreed to the total number that we asked for, 4,000, and we expect to get them.
Mayor, this is one of the most under-policed large cities in the country.
If things remain the same as they are now, is the situation under control?
I think we are gaining control of the situation. There certainly was a great deal of improvement last night over the night before. And I think with all of the resources that we're going to put into this issue today, we expect to have further control of the matter. We're going to be here until we gain total control. I assure you of that.
Mayor, this is one of the main, there are long gasoline lines all over the city. I was told by one gas station owner he was closing down. He was not expecting any more deliveries. Have you any information on this?
No. No.
Mayor, again, this is one of the most under-policed large cities in the country, police per capita. And you had proposed in your budget proposal to cut the department by 10% because the city is undergoing a budget crisis. Is that still your intention, or might you now even ask for more police officers?
No. My budget has been submitted, and it called for a 7% decrease. Every department of the city was asked to suffer some cuts. How that will play out, the council has the matter now, and will come back to me for further action. I cannot tell you at this moment what the results are going to be. We would like to have more officers. We increased the number of police officers in the city by 1,500 just in the course of a 4 or 5 year period. That's because we had the resources to do it. We're now at the point where we don't have the luxury of those resources, and it was for that reason alone, that the department was included in those which would receive cuts. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Okay.
Welcome back.
Right. The mood there, clearly calm, poised, determined, cool-headed, and dogged determination to see it through and get the upper hand and put the city back to rights.
Yes, the mayor said, in fact, that the dusk to dawn curfew that was imposed throughout the city of Los Angeles will continue tonight. He said, in fact, that last night's curfew was a success, and we're quoting now, he says, "We are determined that we're going to take back the streets and make them safe and secure for all of the people." He also outlined once again his conversation with President Bush, where they will be bringing in federal officers. Chris, he told us about 1,000 national law enforcement officers, including Border Patrol, FBI agents, and prison guards will be brought in addition to the 3,000 to 4,000 federal troops that will be brought in from Fort Ord. It's interesting to note that there has been an undercurrent about the response time of the National Guard. We have been hearing it since yesterday that there has been concern about the Guard not mobilizing fast enough, or as most of us in Los Angeles had been led to believe, that they would be able to bring together 2,000 troops and they would be brought into the area, followed by an additional 2,000, in addition to the support troops behind them, the cooks and all of that. But one of the things we have to keep in mind, I heard a National Guard officer, a major, say today that these are citizen soldiers and that it took them time. They were at their jobs just Tuesday, and by Wednesday they were told to be on alert, and they have to make quick moves. They have to tell their employer that they have to leave. They have to take care of family matters. They have to get to an armory. They have to get activated, get their gear, and then be transported into the area.
All those real-life things. I mean, no one questions all of the difficulties that it takes for real-life folks who hold jobs, pull it together to go to work in this extraordinary way. There was a general recognition, though, that response time, considering the need, was slow. Gates said it, the mayor said it, the governor said it several times, and they regretted it very much. One of the hard moments was when we heard they weren't going to have bullets for their guns, that the support just simply wasn't there, right? But the heartbreaker was when we'd been waiting and waiting. You and I were sitting here saying, along with I think everybody else, gee, where are they? Now they're here, and federal troops too in place, ready to go to work if necessary. The presence
federal
very
troops
strong.
will come here with the, as they say, you know, what's that old saying? You hit the deck with your feet moving. They'll do that.
And they're in place, and they're prepared to do that at all times on a professional basis, different from the National Guard. But now the ducks are in a row without question.
Absolutely. Okay. Our reporter, Art Rascone, is at 36th and Western, one of the pockets of resistance in Los Angeles. Let's go to him right now. He's with a live news van. Art, what have you got?
Okay, Harold, what we have here is the National Guard's presence being felt in a dramatic sense. Behind me, you can see that the National Guard is here at the ABC Market. Go ahead and push into those guys over there, Dave, if you could. They're out here in numbers of at least a dozen, and they arrived here just within the past hour. They arrived here because at least 100 individuals arrived at this ABC Market behind me. But what they came here to do was clean up. But still, just as a precautionary measure, the National Guard has arrived, and they have obviously their M16s very visible, and they're cornered at each end of the market, and they're just restoring order to chaos that existed the past couple of days. And obviously their presence can be only felt as something as reinforcement to an area that has been disturbed so violently over the past couple of days. And something that needs to be mentioned, of course, is that the National Guard, as you know, been criticized for arriving too late. We shouldn't maybe say too late, but at least arriving late, some say, at least in the words of neighbors around this area, because of all the looting that took place. This market behind me was simply gutted, and out here they're just trying to restore the order that once existed, and particularly try and clean up this area as well. Reporting live from Southwestern, I'm Art Rascone. Harold, Christine?
We should point out once again, in regard to the National Guard, and then we'll move off of that. There had been question about whether, in fact, they had bullets or not. The National Guard does, in fact, have ammunition. Let us not be misled, or let us not mislead anyone who would try to challenge those guardsmen. They are armed, and yes, the bullets are at the ready. Whether they're in the chamber or not is unimportant. It takes a quick flick of the hand to put a magazine into an M16. When the federal troops come in, the National Guard will be federalized, and they will all work under the auspices of the federal officers, in particular the commanding general. So there you have it, up to date on the news conference. How about a little bit about what Donald Manning had to say, and the chief of police? Stayed away from some of the criticism that had been leveled against the LAPD, a little criticism about slow response time on that side of the ledger as well.
Right, absolutely. Every city had a different style in dealing with these things, and many cities affected that, especially some that we don't think of as being affected. They just don't come out in the news as having all kinds of civil disturbances. But Seattle, very much affected by this, a town that we think of as being very peaceful and under control, not associated with civil disturbance. We are much more so as far as public perception. Tampa, Florida, they had their own struggles. In Las Vegas, of course, 2 dead. A mob there ran completely out of control. They did declare a state of emergency there in that town, as they did in San Francisco. Interesting what happened in San Francisco. It started out as a planned demonstration on Market, the financial core of that particular city. When it was over, most of them went home, but there was a group of your basic bad guys who stayed, ran amok. There were no structural fires, but they set a huge number of small fires. Then they started working their way through the entire city. They worked Market Street and then Union Street, which is the prized possession, you know,
Sure
the
is.
centerpiece for
Yeah.
tourism, and very proud of it. It's spruce, it's clean, it sparkles.
Wonderful restaurants.
Well, they made a mess of it last night, and the city didn't play any games at all. They went in there, they made thousands of arrests, they just grabbed people. They didn't ask any questions at all. They took them out of the area, shipped them way out into the Mission District, put them in warehouses, and just locked them up.
Yeah.
Didn't necessarily book them, but they put a stop to it. That city is quiet, and it worked.
Well, that
so
city
there's
does
the
not
other
have the
cities.
cloud of a Rodney King beating over its head, and the police moved in quickly with a great deal of force and had no hesitation whatsoever
Not at
about
all.
using that force. Let's go out to Joe McMahon now at a post office where people are waiting for checks. We've been telling you about the disruption of services. Joe, what have you got for us?
Okay, one of the things you don't think about, Harold, during times like this are the services that get disrupted. And postal service in South Central Los Angeles has been disrupted for the last 3 days. No mail delivery. We're at the Hancock station. The zip code here is 90044. And as you can see, this crowd stretches 2 blocks and around the corner all the way to Vermont and 84th Street. I would guess conservatively that there probably are several thousand people in line waiting to get either their county welfare check or their Social Security check, and we're told that that is the only mail that's going to be delivered today. Now, to keep control of this crowd, we have LAPD officers here, some of them armed with shotguns, and we also have postal inspectors, all of them armed with shotguns, just to keep everybody in step here. Now, they're letting people in 3, 4, 5 at a time. They give them their mail, they come out, then another 3 or 4 or 5 people go inside. Now, let's go over here and talk to a few folks and see how their lives have been disrupted by not getting their mail, and now they've got to get their checks here. Excuse me, can we talk to you a second? Oh, she doesn't want to talk to us. This lady want to talk to us? Yeah. When was the last time you got mail? Oh, here, okay.
What's the problem here?
When was the last time you got your mail?
Tuesday, Wednesday before it actually happened. It happened Wednesday, and after Wednesday, everything got out of control. And this is nothing but the tip of the iceberg.
Okay, now, how long you been in line?
Since about 7:30, 8 o'clock, and it hasn't moved yet.
How long do you think it's going to be before you get inside?
9 o'clock tonight.
Wait a minute, what's that? Come here, come here.
9 o'clock tonight.
Okay, that would be a conservative. Okay, what'd they say?
They said 10 to 2. Everybody gonna get their mail. It's gonna be about 3 or 4 o'clock tonight before it gets mail.
Now, what are you waiting to get?
I'm waiting to get my check.
Okay, how important is? Do you need that check now?
That's right. I got to feed my baby. Plus, they finna put me out on the streets.
Okay, there you have it. Wait a minute.
And sweetheart,
What's that?
this is already a bad situation, and we are being more exploded because we are acting like animals, and the feeling of the fact is not.
We're having a little dispute here. Needless to say, tempers are a little short, and one can imagine why, but everybody's here. There is a concern. The post office here is only going to be open from 10 until 2 this afternoon. Obviously, everybody is not going to get inside. Again, you can just see this line, 2 blocks at least, around the corner on 84th Street. And, of course, the police are here just to make sure no tempers get out of control and everything stays calm. But these folks want their checks. They want their money. They got to feed their families. I'm Joe McMahon reporting live in South Central. Back to you in Hollywood, Harold.
Very, very understandable, the anger that is beginning to build. You know, before all of this got underway, cooler heads in the community, those who lived through the Watts riots back in '65, said, do not torch our community. We will learn to regret it if we do. And those people that were responsible for those actions, and if you're watching right now, if you felt that there were any gains from any of that, obviously you should think again, because the people who live in your community are beginning to suffer more and more. The basic services, trying to get to a post office, trying to get to a store, trying to catch a bus. You can't do any of these things today. We're going into the weekend.
Just exactly.
It's going to just get worse.
Yeah, it is. It takes a long time before you really begin to sort out all of the big and the little things, all of the subtleties that really shape life and make it downright uncomfortable, will make you realize life has been totally disrupted, and there is no easy answer for all of those people in that line, and it wasn't really a line, it was a quiet group of people stretched out over a 2-block long area, there will not be any carrier delivery from those stations. 10 a.m. to 2 a.m. What time do we have
What
now?
about 10:32 or something?
Okay, 3.5 hours more
Yeah.
for all of those people to try to get the checks to keep life going. And
the one
it isn't
woman
going
at
to
the
be
back of the
possible.
line said she'd been there between 7:30 and 8. She's been there almost 2 hours, 2.5 hours, and it doesn't look like she's making much headway there. But we have a list, Chris, of post
well, let's work
offices
our way through it
and
then.
the status of these post offices. We'd like to bring them to you right now. These are the post offices that are open in South Central LA for Social Security checks and what have you. 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., Chris.
Okay, and then the Wagner station, that's at 2200 Century Boulevard. If your zip code is 90047, if that rings a bell, that's your station, and your only chance that we're afraid to tell you is between 10 and 2.
Also, the one at West Adams, as you can see, the zip code there is 90016 or 90019 or 319, 4960 West Washington Boulevard. The Dockweiler post office as well. This one at 3585 South Vermont Avenue. You can see the zip there. Chris, pick it up.
Okay, and if your zip code is 90044, that's puts you in the Hancock Station area, and the address for you to go there in person, slug out those big lines, 8200 South Vermont Avenue. If your zip code is 90002 or 03, then you're in the Broadway Manchester Station area, and you've got to go there firsthand. 8525 South Broadway is where you have to go to try to get your checks and try to get your mail.
Okay, the Crenshaw at 3894 Crenshaw Boulevard, La Tijera at 5472 Crenshaw Boulevard, and the main office at 7001 South Central Avenue in the city of Los Angeles. Right now, Chris, we are going to get to John North. He is in front of a burning building. And John, you've been out on the streets. Bring us up to date to the status there.
Well, Harold, I'm in Long Beach, where the violence spilled over yesterday, most of it last night. You mentioned earlier there have been over 300 arrests in Long Beach. About 100 of those have been since midnight. There's sort of an uneasy calm here. What you see behind me is what's left of a DMV building that was torched. They don't have the final figures, but you can imagine just the magnitude of what's going on here. If there have been 141 fires, and I know when we drove up Pacific Avenue, that's north of PCH, quite a few buildings have been torched and broken into, and also along PCH east of the freeway. There was one fatality last night. There were, according to the police, roving gangs of black youths who were attacking whites. 2 young men were pulled off a motorcycle. One was shot in the head. Earlier today, as you've seen all over, there was some more looting in a store that had already been looted, and the police arrived to try to stop it. Let's see some of that tape. Listen to it.
Decide what to do here. Well, I can't trust you anymore. I can't trust anybody anymore. You say you'll go home, but I don't think you will. You'll come right back and steal some more. I won't steal no more. Home now. Can I go home now? Yes, you can. Yes, okay, no problem. Go home and sober up. Go home and sober up, please. No problem.
Last night it did get a little out of hand. It seems to be back under control. We're putting out the fires as best we can and trying to get the store owners to come down and take responsibility for the additional loss that's being taken at this time.
So far this morning, that has been pretty sporadic.
It's been very sporadic. We have a van out here and we have more personnel, so we're being able to arrest the real offenders. We've, I think, arrested a total of 300 people so far since last night and this morning.
The police officers were called to another scene where rocks and bottles were being thrown at some fellow officers along Pacific, and just a few minutes later, the people came back and started looting the liquor store again. What you're seeing there is mostly what was left of a food mart that was burned to the ground last night. And as I said, as we've seen in many instances throughout the last couple of days, people just came back as soon as the police moved out. and picked up where they left off, picking up what remains in the liquor store and picking up some bottles. By the way, the woman they told to leave, she came back as well. This DMV fire has been very stubborn, and they've had problems with water pressure in Long Beach. We have here on the scene Long Beach Fire Department, along with Ventura County Fire. They've brought in police officers from Orange County, Los Angeles County Sheriff. They have the National Guard standing by. But again, apparently somewhat of an uneasy calm. The police basically trying to, as you heard, get the store owners back in to secure their places, moving up and down the streets, just kind of keep people moving around. Just as an aside, I called Compton, which of course was hit very, very hard yesterday and last night, where the National Guard finally moved in after the mayor. You heard him on our air. The mayor was complaining, saying, "Where are they? Where are they?" The watch commander said everything there is also, it's a relatively uneasy calm. Nothing burning. He says, what's sad is there's nothing left to burn. Everything that could be looted has pretty much been looted. The liquor stores, the auto parts stores, the convenience stores, the food marts, they've been looted, they've been burned. Now what they're trying to do at places like Long Beach and Compton and Linwood and throughout the area is to restore some basic services, some electricity, water, telephone service. And by the way, in Compton, the National Guard is there and is guarding a couple of shopping centers where there are some stores left which haven't been touched yet. So again, DMV building, nothing left here. 141 fires, 300 arrests in Long Beach, 15 people injured, 1 dead, as the violence from Los Angeles has spilled over into the surrounding communities. Reporting live from Long Beach, I'm John North. Back to you.
All right, John. Thanks
John.
for the
Very
update
much
there.
indeed.
We had feared this when it started just a day and a
right.
half ago, and sure enough, it came to fruition.
Long Beach particularly nasty. We're going to keep watching it.
Interesting to watch the woman who the officer let go, told her to go home and sober up,
There
and
she was
then
again.
we saw her at the looted liquor store enjoying a beverage. And this is kind of what we saw yesterday, Chris. Hour after hour, people moving from one area to the next, just not responding to the authorities.
And the whole alcohol connection there, one of the first things to get hit, in fact, the place where it all started was looting of a liquor store.
Sure.
And it went on, and you've got an absolutely critical situation, and then a whole bunch of people get drunk. What do you have? You've got a situation that's gotten 100 times worse than it ever even needed to. And that part continues, and we hope it stops. We got a guest.
With City Councilman Richard Alatorre joins us now, and we are thankful that you found some time. We know that you have been out talking to people. There has been a great deal of emphasis on the black community in Los Angeles, and perhaps we have not spent enough time as to what is the reaction to what is taking place in the Hispanic community.
Well, you know, obviously, I mean, I think that there is outrage at the decision that came down, but there is also similar outrage at the looting and the senseless violence that's also going on. You know, I was out last night in one of the communities that I happen to represent, and there's quite a bit of tension. But I think that tension can be dealt with, and I think the important thing right now is to try and restore calm, try and restore some peace to the communities. And as you mentioned, Christine, I think the major issue is what happens after. How do we begin the process of rebuilding? See, this was a factor of many things. It wasn't just a decision in the Rodney King case, but I think it's been the, neglect that many of the communities throughout the city of Los Angeles and a lot of the urban centers throughout the country have experienced as a result of the lack of emphasis and the lack of a domestic policy here in the United States.
Great deal of criticism about the lack of jobs, lack of educational opportunities in your community?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you know, we have obviously a very high dropout rate. The one thing that we have is that we have a lot of people, a lot of young men and women that are desirous. If we do not give young people options to the senseless violence that we have seen going on, to the senseless looting that has been going on, you know, this is just but an example of things that are yet to come. And I just think that we have to wake up, not to just wake up as a city, but I think that we have to wake up as a country. And I think we have to look at, once that the restoration of calm and the restoration of peace in Los Angeles takes place, I think we really have to look at what it is that we haven't done and what it is that we have to do.
It certainly does seem, especially watching President Bush, who's tried so hard to find a fine line to ride between sensitivity to the social, cultural, economic issues that are at work, the whole issue of deprivation of huge numbers of people, and then the responsible, more aggressive response to the chaos and sit on top of it. And he's been having a hard time doing it, working at it assiduously, but clearly there was so much tinder in this country, dry tinder, that suddenly went up in flame with explosions of violence in so many cities.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you know, I think that everybody has walked a real tightrope. You know, we can probably look at what happened or what didn't happen after the restoration of peace in Los Angeles. But I think what we have to do is just try and impress upon people right now, you know, obey the curfew, stay off the streets. If you don't have to be on the streets, stay off of the streets. And especially people that have been involved in the looting. I mean, there is no excuse for that. Sure, we can talk about what may have led up to that, but right now I think that we have to just stop, you know, the burning of the very institutions that people are in need of. What's going to happen? How are people going to eat after this is over with? Exactly. Where are they going to go? Where are they going to go to not only get groceries, where are they going to go to get gas and the like? I mean, these are some of the things that we're going to have to immediately address. But for the meantime, I just want to impress upon the people, not only in South Central Los Angeles, but throughout the city of Los Angeles, that, you know let's look at the positives. Let's start the process of the cleanup and let's try and stop the senseless violence that's going on.
Well, it's also interesting to look at what transpired so that we don't repeat our mistakes. And during the last month or two, we have had some real infighting at City Hall, Councilman Alatorre, between the mayor, between the police chief. When the decision came down, the police department of Los Angeles had been so badmouthed by so many people at City Hall and in the community in general. Do you feel at all that this led to people violating the law, stepping up? Because it seems like at the top, last night Diane Watson said she felt that the people at the top also have to take responsibility to what filtered down into the streets and people coming out. What had taken place at City Hall with all this bickering and fighting over a police chief and the role of the police?
Oh, look, I think that there's going to be, when it's all said and done with, there's going to be enough blame to be thrown all over the place, from the top to the bottom. Now, we can talk about this after, and we have to critically analyze what happened and what didn't happen, so that it isn't repeated again. But right now, what is important is we can second-guess the police, we can second-guess the National Guard, we can second-guess everything that has gone on, the president and his reasoning for what he is doing. But see, that right now is not important. What's important is to try and restore the peace here in Los Angeles, so that, you know, this is a great city. The reason it's a great city is because of its people. And I don't think that we've learned how to deal with the diversity of the city. We have not really listened like I believe that we should have listened to the youth of our community and to the real outcry on the part of people that they are hurting. Yes, you know, there's been bickering. Yes, there's been criticism of the department. Yes, there's been chaos as far as decision-making and the like. But at least I think we're all headed in one direction, you know, from the chief, from the mayor, certainly from the city council, from the sheriff's department, from the governor. And I think that we have to continue that course. And then after this peace is restored, then I really think that we have to look at what it is that broke down, because it broke down. It wasn't just one incident. It's a whole series of incidents, and I think that we have to do it for the sake of this great city.
A whole lot of things have been broken down for an awfully long time. For the huge numbers of people that we saw break loose from any kind of order and reason and start looting, the numbers stunned everybody. So something had been broken for quite a long time.
I mean, I don't think the police department was prepared for this. I don't think that we in city government was prepared for the type of senseless looting and burning that went on. See, in the past, it was all, absolutely. It's not just a black community.
Black,
everybody was involved in this, and that is a real tragedy. And I think that, you know, we can try and just limit it and say that it's only a problem of one community, but it is a problem of the city that has festered, that has been allowed to do that without any real resolution and addressing these issues.
Okay, thanks so much.
Thank you much. You've been out. You touched briefly for a second on the response of people in your community. What do you think is going to happen over the weekend?
Well, as an example, we've canceled all of the Cinco de Mayo celebrations or any city, city venue, especially the one that's city sponsored in Alvera Street. And I guess to the Hispanic, the Latino community, all I can say is maybe the best way that we can commemorate the Cinco de Mayo is to be with our families and to stay at home. I mean, it's sad, but for the sake of the safety of people that historically have participated in it, I don't think that their security could have been guaranteed, and it just wasn't wise.
That's a shame.
Just can't be.
Yeah. Well, we'll all do it in spirit.
Absolutely.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thanks so much for being with us.
To have you here.
Harold, I understand we've got Stephen No standing by. He's at Wilshire and Western. Got some things to tell us. We can cut to him right now. Ask him what's happening, Stephen.
Yeah, Christine and Harold, we're here at Wilshire and Western, here in front of the Boys Supermarket. Nothing has happened here in quite a long time. In about an hour, coming up on 2 hours now. And that's really the story here, because about 2 hours ago, these police officers here called for the National Guard to stand by to make sure that nobody else would be looting this store at this point. And nothing has happened. They don't have an ETA on the guard here, and the sergeant who is in charge of this scene, Sergeant Jim Richard, says they need him so that they can go and respond to something else. They did respond to a call, drove away with his sirens blaring, but came back in about 2 or 3 minutes. And in that period of time, a number of people sitting on the walls along the perimeter here came back to the store and tried to take things out. But fortunately for the people here who work and who own the store, the officers came back quickly and took control of the situation. So that's about it from here. Again, still standing by for the National Guard. Sergeant Jim Richard is coming here toward us. Any word, Sergeant, on the National Guard? You called them at about 9 o'clock this morning.
Yeah, it was about 9 o'clock. There's no word at this point. None. So we're just standing by until they do arrive. We asked for 5 National Guard.
What does that mean for your ability to respond to other calls?
Well, if an assistance call or help call, or obviously a citizen was in need of help, we would respond immediately. And the air's been fairly quiet for the last hour and a half, so that's one reason why we've been able to stay here. As you know, we left here about a half hour, 45 minutes ago.
Right.
Just a block away was an owner of a business was barricaded inside his property, and there were shots fired. And so we responded to that. As soon as we did, everybody started rushing back inside the store to loot again. So,
as we saw here.
As you saw here, yes.
And then when you came back?
They left again, yeah.
You know, I'm noticing that there are some people still walking here toward the door, even though you have officers standing here. What does that mean?
Well, a lot of people are walking up to the location right now are asking if they can help clean up. And I was just advised by one of my officers that they've actually broadcast that on the news for the people that reside in this particular area, that if they wish to assist in the cleanup process at the market to respond here. And so I don't know which is going to cause obviously some conflict, because if we leave here and then the looters come back, that's going to create some problems, I'm sure.
What time did you start your shift here along with your team here this morning?
6 o'clock in the morning.
6 in the morning.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Sergeant Jim Richard here. And that's about it here from our location at Western and Wilshire. Now back to you in Hollywood.
Thanks, Stephen. You know, the next time we have the sergeant close at hand, I think a question on the mind of a lot of people is, what prevents the police department from forcing those people completely out of the area? I mean, is there no authority to move these people who are absolutely loitering, waiting to break the law? Is there nothing that allows them to get them out of there?
Well, that's a good question, Harold. And I'll tell you, they can exert their authority in this immediate area. But take a look down here. There are some people sitting out there on the corner. They've been here for as long as we've been here. A couple of guys over there just jumped over the wall as soon as we turned our camera around. They're starting to walk away here. They can go as far as the eye can see. As long as they can see the front of this store, and as long as they can see that the LAPD officers may leave the scene, they're going to stand by. There are some people really who have nothing better to do. Now again, we've mentioned before, we talked about school closings. The sergeant that I talked to, Sergeant Jim Richard, made an interesting comment. You know, it's fine, it's a good thing, and for good reasons they closed certain schools in this area. But unfortunately, a lot of the kids have nothing else to do but to come down to a place like this and hang out. Harold, Christine?
Okay, thanks very much indeed. And when you get a chance, one thing I'd like to know, every so often, because you're talking to police and fire folks all day long, ask them how long they've been up. And when's the last time they ate and they had something to drink and a tiny bit of a rest, just even 5 minutes? Because I know it's getting way over 24 hours for so many of them.
There were some firefighters early this morning that we talked to, the Los Angeles City Fire Department. They had been on shift straight for about 21 hours. Shortly after that, they were relieved, and they say they are being fed. The officers here started their shift again at about 6 o'clock. They've been on for a little while, so they're okay. They're in good shape. There are enough people around, and things have calmed down to the point where they can do something reasonable like a 12 or 16-hour shift. Unfortunately, the firefighters...
Reasonable?
Well...
Oh, Steve.
Well, but our reporters have been
It
working
depends.
those same shifts. So
It depends who you talk to, I guess.
They don't have to haul those heavy hoses, although they've all been working so darn hard. Management upstairs, just before we were ready to take over here at 9 o'clock this morning, Harold, there were some things that they were experiencing. We're trying to stay on top of it. We're not hauling hoses, but we're doing different kinds of things, too. We have our own kinds of problems. We have what they call a serious request that we here at Eyewitness News would like to pass on to you, to our viewers. Please don't call our newsroom just, so to speak, just to pass on a comment.
Yeah, well, the reason is that we realize that you like to share your views with us, and we value your opinions, and we often rely on them, of course, to get a sense of community reaction, especially regarding the current emergency. But because of that emergency, we need our lines open to handle what we consider to be serious breaking news stories.
Right, and it's so important that we be able to do that. We depend on you to help us do that. But unless we save it for those really big items, those big ticket items right now, our hands are going to be tied. We need your help to let that happen. So unless you do have an emergency call, please help us. Keep our phone lines open, too. And we thank you very, very much for that cooperation.
We do, in fact, appreciate it a lot. All right, Art Rascone back on the line at 37th and Western, I believe. Let's go with him and see what the situation looks like there. Art?
Okay, Harold, we've moved further south over to MLK and Western. Here we have behind me an ABC market. It was threatened to be looted earlier today as individuals were arriving at the scene. But as you can see behind me, if we can push into the National Guardsmen, they arrived and they restored order to what existed as chaos yesterday. And their presence has been definitely shown here and witnessed by the individuals here. And instead of chaos and violence, we have individuals who have come from all over the neighborhood cleaning up. And they're out here in great numbers. And now look at this. We have a lady over here who is passing out burritos, passing out banana bread, it looks like, to the volunteers who have come to clean up the area. So I think what I witness here now is a great community effort of cleanup. And it's an inspiring story indeed, because of what we have witnessed over the past couple of days has been nothing but chaos and destruction and fear among the community members. Let's look at some tape that we shot earlier, just moments ago, as Edward James Olmos and his group, a large group, it started at about 25 individuals. They began to slowly grow as they marched from street to street and block to block, cleaning up all sorts of debris that littered the walkways. Look at this effort here. Individuals of all ages, young children and older people, and those who were just walking the streets, and right behind them a smoldering building. But yet they grew in numbers as they walked south on Western Street. An enormous story here to tell of individuals wanting to clean up their community. Look at this. They just went from block to block and further south and cleaned up in an amazing effort. With a frenzied pace as well, they cleaned the streets, and I watched in amazement. And yesterday I stood in awe at the great horror and tragedy that existed throughout the city, and today I think I stand in great amazement at the great cleanup effort that exists, at least in this part of this section of town. And so it's an inspiring story and a positive one to tell, and something I think that has put a smile on my face after covering this for the past few days, and I'm sure something that everyone can be excited about. Again, here the National Guardsmen out keeping order to what was once chaos. We have burritos being passed out to the volunteers here, and a great cleanup effort. Reporting live from South Central Los Angeles and Southwestern Street, I'm Art Rascone. Harold, Christine, back to you.
Art, do you get a sense that we're finally seeing the people take back the streets, the people taking back their community? This is the response to all of the chaos and all of the looting?
Yes, in fact, that's exactly what we're seeing here. As I talk with individuals, young women, old women, they want to take back the streets. Let's just walk over here and talk with someone here. Excuse me, ma'am, do you speak English?
No.
You don't speak Spanish. Okay, you speak English. Let me talk with you. If you can reach over here, please. Tell me, why are you out here?
Well, we're trying to help the community, you know, because we saw when they took all the things out, and we're like, you know, we saw the destruction everybody made, so we, you know, we thought, hey, you know, we might as well help.
Enough is enough, and you're out here taking back the streets.
Yeah, because, I mean, you know, it's not fair what they're doing out here. There's people out of work and stuff, so, you know, we're just trying to help out a little bit, and, you know, so we could just help out.
All right, a great effort indeed. Thank you so much. Just one of hundreds of individuals that we've been able to find here throughout the morning who have decided to take back the streets. And something that she mentioned, which should be mentioned as well, emphasized at least, that is the jobs that are being lost in this community. Yes, indeed, we had probably 30, 40 people who worked at this market. This is one of hundreds and hundreds of businesses that have been destroyed. We're talking about thousands and thousands of workers in their own community who are now out of work. And of course, the only way to get the community to get back together, reconcile, earn some differences here, and work in unity, in one effort, is to get over here and clean up indeed. Reporting live from Southwestern, I'm Art Rascone. Harold, Christine.
Thanks so much for that, Art. It's a beautiful sight to see people out there working. You never shine more brightly as a human being than when you're out there getting your hands dirty, doing something that helps everybody. This city's experienced more than $200 million in damage, and this is just the beginning. It's an early estimate. It's bound to go up.
And the mayor said it. Let's all
Broom
get
power.
out there and broom power. And the mayor said, you know, let's get out. Let's clean up in front of our houses, those that have been damaged, and let's take control. And as the authorities continue to show a bigger presence, of course, I believe the people in the community will lose their reluctance to come out and to move around a little more freely.
They won't be afraid to
They'll
come
go
out and
hand
do
in
that.
hand.
And you know, Art said the obvious, that those are the good people that are doing that, and maybe they're the ones that we never saw yesterday who were in their homes frightened. But you know what else it could be? It could be, and this to me is so exciting, just personally, it could be people who have changed their minds. Yesterday, who knows, maybe some of them were out doing some things they shouldn't have been doing that hurt everybody. They thought about it. They thought about it. They listened to almost last night. They listened to Archbishop Mahoney. They listened to their hearts and consciences, their parents, somebody, and they crossed that line. They're out there picking up brooms, and they're sweeping up and scrubbing and cleaning.
One of the many reasons I like you so much is because of your optimism. You know,
well,
that's just one of the reasons.
Well,
and
Harold.
I hope you're right. No, I believe that you're right, and let's hope that there are more and more of those people out there. But that kind of optimism is what we need. You got it. You came in this morning. Chris came in this morning. She said, you know what the story is in L.A. today? I said, what's that? She said, it's the people. She said, today is the day to look at the people and to see what the people are doing. And she made the call early on, and that's where this story is going, and it continues to build today. How about if we take a look with Captain Richard Soto from Newscopter 7 at what's happening around L.A. right now?
Yes, Harold and Christine. Right now, we're just coming up to the Coliseum. What I'm going to be showing you now is the pictures of the National Guard staging area. This is where some of the National Guard people have been staged earlier on. As you can see through the pictures, we have convoys of Deuce and a Half, wreckers, some Humvees, and some Blazers out there. I'm not sure what they're going to be doing later on, but this is part of their staging area. Things have really calmed down a lot out here since the last 4 hours since I've been out here. Earlier on, I used to see where they were fighting the fires. You used to have maybe 1 or 2 vehicles out there fighting the fires. Now, you know, they're getting a pretty good handle on it. And basically, they're taking care of everything now and just working on these fires a lot longer and putting them out.
All right. You know, Richard, that looks like that might just be a bit of a little practice there, a little tactical maneuver in the parking lot.
What they're doing right now, I believe, is they're just staging up and forming up. They may be moving to another area. What they do is they get all the vehicles in a line, and they have a certain order that they go through, and then once they figure out where they're going to go, their plan, then they proceed down to that location.
Well, I wish you had a bullhorn on that helicopter, and you could say on behalf of the people of Los Angeles, let's get it moving. You know, the people, the mayor, the police chief, everybody is saying, where is the National Guard? We just heard from the police sergeant who was with Art Rascone, Chris. He was saying they're kind of stuck in the mud there, standing in that supermarket parking lot. They can't do much until the guard gets there. And the question is, what is the delay? Of course, Richard, you don't have the answer. I was being facetious about the bullhorn, but we're watching them closely, and the community awaits their arrival.
Yes, there's a lot more to it than what most people think. You know, when they form up a National Guard unit, they have to go through there's a lot of red tape and channels that they have to go through, and just forming up and then getting out their plan of attack. They don't just arbitrarily just go to any location. They have certain guidelines that they have to follow.
Yeah, I'll tell you, it's been my experience as a soldier, a federal soldier. When they come in, they will be given their marching orders, and they will not have this kind of delay. When they arrive from Fort Ord and are deployed, they will move promptly to the designated spot, and they will have a clear understanding of what their role is, and they will carry out that role. That does not mean to say anything negative about the National Guard. But as we pointed out earlier, these are citizen soldiers. These are teachers, doctors, nurses, lawyers, what have you, painters, bakers, and these people had to make personal arrangements to suddenly drop everything. You recall we had to do the same thing with Desert Storm, Chris, when we activated some of these units. It was a terrible hardship. It would be if we were asked all of a sudden to drop what we're doing and to leave our family and to leave with no idea of when we're coming back. And right now our military is made up of women who have children that they have to worry about. Hopefully they have husbands or men that will be able to take care of them while they're gone. But these are the kinds of things that are confronted when you're in today's Guard. So we don't want to be critical, but we are asking now, how long are you folks going to stand there and maneuver around the parking lot? But perhaps our people upstairs in Eyewitness News are contacting the National Guard hierarchy, and we can get a definite idea of when those people will be deployed in our community.
Right, and once they are in place, they're going to be kind of an unequivocal presence, and that's going to be very supportive and let everything else go forward. An assurance of order and of calm. And talk about the National Guard. Interesting things about some of the federal forces that just flew into my head here, and that is that some of them who served in Panama have special skills, very unique training in dealing with civil disturbances, and they're going to be especially effective. In addition to all of their military skills, they're going to be very facile in dealing with that. And we just got a note here, Harold, that Nevada Governor Bob Miller has ordered the National Guard out in his state, too, because of all of the problems in Las Vegas. They had a whole night of rioting on the west side, evidently in the black part of the city, and some 400 guardsmen are going to be there. They've experienced 2 deaths and a great deal of damage, and they're hoping to put the lid on that and bring things back to order, too.
City Councilman Richard Alatorre was our guest just a few moments ago, if you're just joining us now, and he told us the bad news about the Cinco de Mayo celebration in Los Angeles. It has been canceled, understandably so. The city cannot afford large gatherings of people while we undergo the dusk to dawn curfew, which will be in effect again tonight, dusk till dawn. The mayor said it worked last night well enough that they want to put it into effect again tonight. Now, some other events that have been postponed, we want to keep you posted on these things. Stan Radford from our sports department notifies us that tonight's Lakers-Portland playoff game at the Forum apparently has been postponed. A new date and time will likely be announced sometime later today, but that game has been postponed. Hollywood Park in Inglewood has called off its racing program tonight, also Saturday and Sunday. This is a big setback to Hollywood Park because tomorrow, of course, is the running of the Kentucky Derby. And Hollywood Park had anticipated large crowds out there for Derby Day, and they were, I believe tonight, they were going to have night racing at Hollywood Park. But all of that has been canceled right now from tonight through Sunday. Now, here are some other items, Chris, that we can bring you up to date as to their availability or their cancellation.
Right. This is a pretty good sign when you see things beginning to come back and reach out to people and be available. Good thing. Amusement parks, cultural events that are affected here. The LA Zoo, everybody's favorite, it's open today and this weekend, at least the way it looks right now. Twilight Trek postponed, though, tonight and tomorrow not going to be happening. And Magic Mountain closed today as usual, and it is going to be open this weekend.
Well, but I guess that one is far enough north where I
so.
don't think there'll be too much problem out there. Now, Universal Studios open today and this weekend in Universal City. And down in Orange County, Disneyland, again, open today, as well as the entire weekend. And one of my favorites, Knott's Berry Farm. Open
One of your
today.
favorites, too?
You know
All
what?
right,
I've seen
Harold.
Knott's Berry Farm. I used to stop there. Gee, I sound like, I'm a dinosaur, but I used to stop there when that thing was just a farm. And when we would head back from L.A. to San Diego, you'd swing by there and you'd actually buy the jams and stuff they would make there. And
yeah, they do have berries out there.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
surreal. And then Disneyland down there in Orange County. They've been spared a good deal of this, and things are quiet. We want it to stay that way. It's nice to see Disneyland's going to be opening, or staying open and being available. J. Paul Getty Museum closed. Museum of Natural History and Science and Industry downtown there. That's a critical area. They're going to stay closed. And George C. Page Museum, same area. For obvious reasons, it's been an area of core concern. They're going to stay closed, too. One thing that's been getting back to normal, though, Harold, for some strange reasons, is L.A. Airport. Yesterday, they had visibility problems. They got some more cultural events to take a look at. We'll finish that up first. Renaissance Fair in Glen Helen Regional Park canceled altogether.
And the 25th anniversary celebration for the Center Theater Group canceled. That was a big, big celebration. A lot of people have put in a lot of time and effort on that one. Canceled. Unfortunately, we do not have a reschedule on that, and if we get that, we will bring that to you. Now, the Dodgers game, I guess they're playing the Expos, Montreal. They canceled tonight, so Dodger Stadium will be dark tonight. No baseball in Dodger Town.
Right. We hear the NBA, some other cities might be hosting some of these games and picking up the slack so that the games can be played and the schedule's not going to have too many wrinkles in it, but we don't know which ones yet. Just hasn't been decided. That LAX thing, though, maybe I'll just try to go through that really quickly. And while you look at the Phantom of the Opera, which is canceled, we'll work our way through this. Canceled tonight. No Phantom of the Opera. And the Harry Connick Jr. concert, favorite of everybody, canceled. Not going to be happening, canceled concert.
LAX is still going to have to be on hold.
It's going to be on hold. We're going to get to it, though.
We're bringing you some information we mentioned a moment ago. The Lakers and Portland game canceled. Hollywood Park canceled. Chris, what you said was interesting. Maybe like that Clippers Utah Jazz game, maybe it will go back to Utah. But we don't have any word on that yet, but that's how they might handle that situation over the weekend. Right,
they're talking about it anyway, and if they decide it, we'll tell it.
Now, what's that situation at LAX?
Okay, here's the deal at LAX. Yesterday, of course, we were so worried about it. It was too smoggy, they couldn't see, too smoky. Visibility, just absolutely critical, even worried about gunfire from the ground, and they said so openly at LAX. Well, today, there's still a 3-hour delay for incoming flights, 45-minute delay for outgoing flights, but it's better than what we would have expected. And the reason, unfortunately, is that other cities and business people from companies who usually come in here to do business, they've canceled flights in droves to the extent that the different airlines cannot justify running those planes. They experienced 2 big losses, and so the flights have been canceled, and the incoming flight schedule a great deal lighter, so things are getting better for some kind of negative reasons. And an international thing that comes to mind is Japanese tourism, a very important thing in Southern California. The #1 tourist port canceled all trips into this area for obvious reasons.
Well, and if word gets back to Japan, which I'm sure it has, because as you know, I was just in Japan 3 weeks ago, what took place downtown at the New Otani Hotel on the first night of rioting, people in the downtown area, the demonstrators, the rioters, actually attacked the New Otani Hotel. Terrified tourists from Japan were literally huddled in their rooms. They were absolutely terrified, and that word will get back to Japan very quickly, of course. It already has, and that will impact tourism here in the short run. Over the long haul, we don't know. You mentioned about airplanes and what's happened. We were handed this a bit ago. I put it to the side, but I'll bring it back out. People planning to fly between Reno and the Los Angeles airport will get to their destination, but a spokesman at the Reno airport says they can plan on delays of about an hour. So,
okay. We just heard in our ear there's a fire at Manchester in Vermont. This has been such a troubled area and a troubled city. It's just been clobbered again and again, and there are more problems. And we've got Richard Soto up there in Newscopter 7. Richard, can you tell us what you see there, please?
Oh, yes, I just came over to the scene. We were diverted to another one, and I spotted the black smoke. This is the intersection of Manchester and Vermont. It looks like a liquor store that's up in flames at this time. And try and get over on the other side where you can see the flames coming up. We're just on the south side of it. And just about now you can see it's the flames moving into the pictures.
Yeah, this one is really cooking, isn't it, Richard?
Yes, this one is really cooking, as you said. And I don't see any fire department people there at the time. They do have the street blocked off, or they're trying to control it, because I believe power is out at this area, and the signals aren't working.
No fire department people. We have an official of the fire department about to sit in here, and he can tell us the difficulty. In fact, come on in, and we will put a microphone on. Let's stay with Richard on this. This gives us all an understanding of the difficulty and how far stretched, Chris, that our firefighters are, and the equipment. And
the protection they need just to go in to begin to do their work. We know we've been talking about things getting better. It's true. We're not taking that back, but still we're not at the point where they can go in and go to work on these fires with impunity. They need cover. They need protection. That complicates the whole business of response. And looks like a nasty one there. This street corner just gotten the worst pummeling on every possible level, and we're still waiting for the fire companies to come on in there.
Dean Cathay of the Los Angeles Fire Department joins us right now, and thank you so very much. We're looking at a situation here. Tell us professionally what you see and what you think will happen, or what you know will happen in tackling this problem.
Well, this has been the typical scenario that we've been watching for the last day and a half with respect to fires that break out and either go unreported to us, or the fact that we are so committed to other incidents that we're not able to respond in there initially as we typically do. The fire has a chance to get headway, and it turns out to be a defensive operation where basically we're trying to protect the fire from spreading to adjacent buildings and holding it to that particular structure that it's involved at the present time.
Chief, what's the water supply like in Los Angeles now?
We have an excellent water system in the city of Los Angeles. In fact, the last time the city was rated for its insurance rating, and it's been several years, but the city received a Class 2 rating.
You know, people lined up to turn it around and roll it in. We don't have anybody in Studio 8 right now, right?
That has only improved over time, and so it's been a real benefit to us when we've had the major brush fires and incidents like this. We've had no problems with water supply at all during the course of the last 2 days.
We'll grab sleep here as we can, but one of the first things that I heard when I got up this morning and started listening and watching again was that the response time, not everywhere, but in certain places, was pretty much near normal to these fires. And that, to me, was pretty significant. Was that an odd incident, or do you really see that much of an improvement in affairs?
Well, we've put a lot more resources on the street in the last day and a half. We've had mutual aid, incredible response from other agencies to assist us. In some cases, jurisdictions that have maybe 3 or 4 engines in their city will give us half of their resources to help out. And we've had that kind of additional response. We've had 90 additional fire companies, which is the equivalent of about 360 firefighters augmenting our force. And the more people we have, the better we can disperse them out, and the faster we're able to respond to these incidents as we become aware of them.
Chief, the first night, I suspect that many of the people that had to respond to the fires had nothing but butterflies in their stomach trying to do their job.
Well, it's been that way throughout. I think this is an experience that most of our firefighters have not gone through. 27 years ago with the Watts riots, many of those senior people, there's still some of them on the fire department at this time, but most of the people have not had that kind of experience, have never been confronted with gunfire, with the pelting of rocks and bottles and so forth. And so it was a very stressful, very frightening experience for a lot of them. But I have to tell you, they responded in a fantastic fashion.
They sure have.
Everybody has that feeling. And
here comes a black and white, you two, just to keep us posted on this. Go ahead, Chris. I just want to bring us up to date. Does that signal perhaps fire units are coming up behind it, Chief?
More than likely at this time, those are patrol cars in the general area that have become aware of the incident. What we're doing now, and this occurred beginning yesterday evening, to free up the Los Angeles Police Department officers and Sheriff's Department, the Highway Patrol deployed several hundred officers with the sole purpose of providing escort for us. So we have those people responding with each of our units when they go into these troubled areas and to provide that protection for us.
It's possible for you to go and respond. You know, everybody understands really that when the fire department goes in there, you've got good guys going in there. They are unarmed, they're vulnerable, they're only in there trying to help somebody. When they go to work, good things happen, only good things happen, and still we've heard how you've been threatened by rocks and bottles and fire, and it's been devastating to so many people who feel close to the good things that the fire department means to every single one of us. How are those 2 firemen doing who were injured?
We've got several others now that have occurred over the course of yesterday evening. The one firefighter, of course, the more serious one, was the one who was shot the first night. He is in stable but still critical condition. The bullet penetrated his cheek into his neck and split his carotid artery. And so they immediately had to go in and do emergency surgery. His condition is guarded at the present time in that there may have been some brain damage due to the blood loss, but we have not been able to determine that. And we're certainly hopeful that that's not the case. And that's been our most serious injury of a Los Angeles firefighter. There was one of our mutual aid firefighters from Santa Ana, I believe, who was shot in the thigh. He is in good condition at this time, as good as you can be with that kind of a wound, but it doesn't look like there's going to be any long-term effect from that at the present time.
Here come your troops.
There we go.
Here they are.
Here they are. Yeah, riding to the rescue, if you will. It's almost like out in the Wild West, isn't it?
It's a war zone. It's what it feels like out there. I had the opportunity to do an overflight yesterday afternoon in the heat of a lot of the activity, and to count the fires beyond my ability to count them were going on at the same time, watching looting taking place from the air, and feeling, as I think our people do in the street, frustration, as you pointed out, Christine, being confronted like this when you're trying to do the right thing, the good thing for the people, and to have them react to you in the way that many of the people involved in this have. It's been extremely stressful and extremely frustrating for our people.
Have you had a chance to spell people? Have you been able to work in shifts as opposed to all-out raging emergency basis? Or?
Right. We operate on a 24-hour shift, and of course after the violence broke out on Wednesday afternoon, the shift was almost halfway through their day. That platoon, and they continued through the night, a very busy, very weary night for them, I might add, but they were relieved in the morning, and a new shift came on, and later yesterday, Thursday, we added additional crews to augment them. We called in the off-going shift, not the off-going, but the following shift. It was off-duty at that time, and put additional fire companies on the street to help out in this. But they have been on duty for 24 hours and now are just being relieved with the crew coming on this morning.
Chief, we thank you very much for coming in. It's a pleasure to have you here and to watch the men and women of your department operate live right before our eyes. There they are. The irony, again, we saw across the front of that store, it said black owned, the one that's on fire right now. That didn't matter one bit, did it, in this time around in this riot?
It doesn't seem to. I think this violence has gone beyond a particular nationality or ethnic group. It seems just totally senseless, and it's directed just across the board at our community, and it's devastating, I'm afraid.
The worst and most sure sign of senselessness is random behavior like that, and that's certainly what we've seen.
That's the case. If I could just briefly give you some statistics on what has occurred. These are the most recent numbers that we have. Since the violence broke out roughly 6 o'clock on Wednesday, we've had a total of 3,767 structure fires.
Wow.
This is probably what we experience, is about a third of what we experience every year in structure fires.
Do you have a breakdown between the commercial buildings and actual homes? Last night we were beginning to worry about a lot of homes.
They have nothing right now. About 11:45, I told Louis to record.
From that, but total incidents over this time frame, including our medical incidents, just a little over 5,600. And our workload yesterday, at midnight last night, we were at 5,000, almost 5,000 incidents for one 24-hour period.
Incredible.
5 times our normal.
That has to be a record, wouldn't you think?
Oh, yes. Even 4th of July, which is the busiest day of the year for the fire department, we will typically do about 2,000, 2,100 calls, so we're well over that.
Wow.
All right. We thank you so much, Chief. We appreciate it very much. We want to take the remaining time we have to get out to Stephen No right now. He has been at that location where the police have been stymied. They've been stuck in the parking lot. The looters have been on the outskirts. Cleanup efforts going on out there. Let's check in briefly with him and get an update on the situation. Stephen?
Harold, Christine, this is a scene that Art Rascone is very, very familiar with. A lot of people have volunteered their time here and their effort to clean up the mess here in front of the Boys Market here on Wilshire and Western. Julian Moreno saw this market on TV. Hey, Julian, why don't you come on over here? Julian Moreno, tell me why you're down here, how you found out about this place.
Well, I was about home about 10 minutes ago, and I heard them announce that they were asking the community to help out. So I got my broom and came down. This is basically where I shop all the time, me and my family, so it felt like the right thing to do. This burning down and stealing from all these stores isn't going to solve the problem. All it did, I feel, is create I had to go to the market this morning. I had to travel across town for that. And the bad part about it, I stood an hour in line to get to it.
So the sooner you get this place cleaned up, if you help out, you'll be able to come here again and buy food.
Hopefully, the faster it gets done, hopefully, God willing, Boys is going to come back into the community and provide for us again, you know, the service that they have. Again, like I said, this is somewhere I shop, my family shops, and the faster we get it cleaned up, the faster we're going to be able to get back to normal life around here.
Probably something maybe other people should do, even people standing around here.
I definitely think all these people standing around here, you know, this is a Hispanic community here. It's more Hispanic than black. I don't think it's a black issue, a white issue. I think it was just something that people took advantage of and disrupted everybody else's lives. My kids, they got a lot of questions. They're confused. I tried talking to my son last night, and he still didn't understand what's going on. So this is, hopefully he's watching me now. Hopefully he'll understand that this was wrong for doing that. And that's the main reason why I'm here.
All right, well, thank you very much, Julian Moreno. I'll let you get back to work. Julian Moreno here helping to clean up the mess here in front of the Boys Market at Western and Wilshire, setting a great example for his son and others. Harold, Christine?
All right, Stephen, thank you. I just sense, Stephen, from watching and listening to you over the last 5 hours, that you're getting caught up in this community spirit that seems to be building out there. Getting a sense that the people are starting to come out and starting to look around and say, we don't like this. We want to show everybody else that this is our town and we're going to clean it up and take care of business as best we can.
Exactly, Harold. I think when the sun came up this morning, as LAPD officers race away from the scene, as the sun came up, they realized what had happened, and that in fact they should take matters into their own hands and get things done on their own so that they can get life back to normal again. We saw scenes from Joe McMahon's stories about people waiting in line at the post office. I mean, people simply do not want to live like this, so they're doing their best on their own, taking the initiative and putting in a little hard work to try to make things back to normal. Now, the LAPD officers left the scene. Sergeant Jim Richard, I talked to a little while ago, said that the situation here seems to be pretty much under control. There are enough people here cleaning up to keep away would-be looters from the Boys Market here along Western and Wilshire.
Good deal.
Okay, good deal. Love to see that scrubbing, the water flowing there,
yeah.
Cleaning up and sprucing up beginning. Harold, you took us over to that tremendous long line. This is an important story. Mail service disrupted. Many offices not even trying to make any home deliveries. People need their mail, and what they need are those Social Security checks, and we saw a mile-long, 2-block-long line is not the right word, just a group of
long
people.
line.
That's so deep, you know. If it's 15 deep, it's not a line anymore, is it? And these people need money to keep life going. They need to have the money to buy food, and there they are.
The Social Security checks are waiting for them.
Wrap around
this
the block.
post office will be open from 10 to 2, and we know that the postal authorities apparently are sticking to that time frame. We have no indication that they will extend it beyond the 2 o'clock hour. So those folks are waiting. They're patient. It's a very, very frustrating experience.
Sure.
They need that money. It's a Friday afternoon. They need to get the checks. Finding a place to cash them, Chris, could be another problem this afternoon.
Right, and you know what, Harold? If they do have the good fortune to find a place to cash the checks, where are they going to be able to go to buy the things they need? So many food stores shut down, the moms who need food for children, certainly for themselves.
Certainly
just to
not
keep
in this
life
area.
going, they
Look at
can't
this.
Get it.
Look at this shot that we're showing you here. We have watched these buildings burn, and now we are actually seeing, after the fire department has knocked them down,
right.
It has been compared to Beirut, Panama City after the attack there, Kuwait. It is absolutely a devastating picture. Here these people are. I don't know, Chris. You called it a mile-long line. I'm not betting against that.
That's right.
That
it has
is
grown.
Look at how far we're going with this now. We had come around the building. They are only allowing in, according to Joe McMahon, 4 or 5 at a time.
Right, and at 2 o'clock they really are going to shut the doors. And, you know, it's quite a touching sight to see that as long as that line is, and as immense as the frustration is and the need for the money in the mail, how quiet it is as these people are standing by these burned out buildings, the exterior wall standing and the inside just gutted. But the people are quiet, they're patient, and they're waiting.
Yeah, you know, that's all they can do.
Yeah. That's
what they can do. When, as you pointed out, when they get the checks, and if they find a place, they're lucky enough to cash the check. There is no bus service in the community now. Still an enormous amount of power outages. The mayor said they cannot get in to restore power in the community that we're looking at right now because they cannot assure the safety of the people that do that sort of thing, the power company workers. And it's going to be a long, long weekend for the people who live there, the people, the good citizens of the community who have literally been locked in their homes, who have felt like they've been in a war zone when in fact they have, with police activity, shooters, helicopters overhead. The impact, as Chris pointed out earlier, on the children of the community will be felt for years.
Right, the point was made, the psychologists at work here as something we need to think about and reach out particularly to young people who have no way of making any comparison. And this is overwhelming for adults, so for small ones, we said yesterday the world's not coming to an end, but to them surely it felt like it. Let's reach out to them and let's listen to them and support them and hold them close.
You bet. Chris, we understand that Rodney King's attorney will be holding a press conference this afternoon. Eyewitness News will be there. If Rodney King is there, we do not have, I should say we do not know if Rodney King is going to be there, but we know his attorney, Steve Lehrman, will be holding a news conference. We will bring you all the developments beginning today at 4, my friend.
4 o'clock, yes indeed we will. See you here again then, and thank you very much for watching us. Hope we've delivered a service we sure meant to.